Chapter 661. Oh. Wang Chang's eyes flashed, a hint of surprise finally appearing on his face. What do you mean? Although he was somewhat dissatisfied with the Huang clan, Wang Chong still had a great deal of trust in Zhang Shouji. If young master carefully thinks about it, you will definitely realize that the Huang clan actually built a significant portion of the steel walls. But later on, when the clan ran out of refined iron and the Huang clan went to the market to buy more, they discovered that they had run out of ore. Zhang Shouji said. How could that be? Wang Chong immediately refuted Zhang Shouji's words. Everywhere in the Tang dynasty, there is an endless supply of refined iron and ore to the capital. In the last several hundred years, the supply has always exceeded the demand, and there has never been a shortage of refined iron and ore on the market. How could the Huang clan suddenly run out of supplies? Wang Chong had a look of disbelief on his face. It wasn't that he didn't believe Zhang Shouji, but that the Huang clan's excuse was very hard to believe. He had lived in the capital for many years, and he had been stubborn and dissolute, mingling with the scions of various clans. Thus, he had some understanding of the situation in the capital. The Huang clan's argument was simply untenable. Let alone him, no one else would so easily believe them. In normal circumstances, this would truly be impossible, but something happened at that time. For some reason, the Arab merchants in the capital suddenly changed their behavior. After selling off the pearls and agate, they stopped buying silk, tea, and ceramics, and instead went to buy refined iron and ore. It was precisely because of their interference that the Huang clan ran out of iron and refined iron. Buzz! Before Zhang Shouji could finish speaking, Wang Chang's body trembled and he raised his head to stare in shock across from him. Sir Zhang, what did you just say? The Arabs? Young Master Chong, what's wrong? Zhang Shouji was given a fright by Wang Chang's expression. Other than during the Southwestern War, Zhang Shouji had never seen Wang Chong look like this. Sir Zhang, you just said that the Arab merchants are buying up refined iron and ore in the capital. Wang Chong ignored Zhang Shouji's words. He stretched out his arm and grabbed Zhang Shouji's arm tightly. After seeing Zhang Shouji nod in confusion, Wang Chang's mind buzzed and exploded. Who? The carriage was silent, but Wang Chang's heart was in turmoil. 3 years of war, 10 years of preparation. Refined iron and iron ore had always been inextricably linked to battle and death. The fact that the Arabs were buying up refined iron and iron ore in the Central Plains meant only one thing: the Arabs were preparing for a new war. And an opponent worthy of the Arabs fighting, in Wang Chang's memories, to the far west of the western regions, where the Arabian Empire was located, while the Tang dynasty was slowly halting its expansion and becoming more conservative, the distant Arabian Empire had already completed its conquest of all the surrounding powers. Even Karak Spazinu had become its vassal state. The impression that the Tang dynasty had of the Arabs was still this: they looked no different from the Hu and only knew how to buy and sell spices, gems, and camels. Their country was extremely small, about the size of Mengshi Zhao or Goguryeo, but they had no idea that the Arabian Empire had already completed its most important expansion and was ushering in its golden age. This was an empire with more than 28 million people and an area of 12.6 million square kilometers. It was even larger than the Tang dynasty. In this era, there were only 2 great empires that could truly stand shoulder to shoulder with it. One was Tang, and the other was Arabia. However, in this era, none of the great empires acknowledged the existence of the other. And if the Arabian Empire wanted to wage war, it could only attack the Tang dynasty and Sindhu in the east. Young master, an anxious voice came from afar, and an old face with a face full of hardships slowly became clear in his eyes. Zhang Shouji looked worriedly at Wang Chong. He had just been discussing the matter of the Huang clan and the Arabs, but for some reason, Wang Chong had become motionless and inaudible. Ah! I'm fine. Wang Chong shook his head as he came back to his senses. I know about the Huang clan. Tell them that they can forget about the Southwest. As long as they complete the contract we agreed on, I can treat it as if nothing happened. But if it happens again, I won't let them off. With the Wang clan's current status and influence, even if the Huang clan was a renowned swordsmithing clan of the capital with a legacy of several hundred years, it could still easily crush them into dust. This was definitely not just a threat. Definitely. Definitely. Zhang Shouji rejoiced at Wang Chang's words. With such a major oversight, even if they were as bold as the heavens, they would never dare to commit such a crime again. There was a natural connection between master architects and swordsmithing clans. Moreover, as one of the largest swordsmithing clans of the Tang dynasty, the Huang clan played an extremely important role. If Wang Chong wanted to do something in the future, the Huang clan would definitely be able to play an important role. This was also why Zhang Shouji was willing to plead on the Huang clan's behalf. Only those with the best smithing skills could forge sabers, swords, and all sorts of other weapons. The Cheng, Zhang, Huang, and Lu great clans did not just know how to forge sabers and swords. Zhang Shouji quickly opened the carriage door and left. But Wang Chong sat in the carriage, his mind in turmoil, unable to calm down for a long time. Outside the carriage window, the sky over the capital was clear and cloudless, but Wang Chong could clearly smell the scent of war in the air. The Battle of Talas. This thought flitted through Wang Chong's mind. This was the first and largest war between the Great Tang and the Abbasid Caliphate, the two greatest empires of the East and West. And in Wang Chong's plans, this was a war that he had to reverse, a war that he had to win. Buzz. Time slowly passed, and as Wang Chong was lost in thought, a strange feeling suddenly welled up in his mind. Without the slightest warning, an intense sense of danger surged out of his mind, so intense that Wang Chong felt his scalp go numb. Wang Chong's eyes widened. Bang! With no time to think, Wang Chong suddenly broke through the carriage wall and flew out. As he flew out, Wang Chong clapped his hands together, sending a thick stream of stellar energy through the carriage and jolting coachman out. Boom! The moment Wang Chong flew out, a massive boom came from behind him, sending shockwaves of energy flying in all directions. At the same time, cries of alarm rang out in the crowd, causing them to retreat in fright as if they were avoiding the plague. 10 some zhang away, Wang Chong turned his head, and when he saw the scene behind him, his face twisted into a nasty grimace. Behind him, the ground had caved in, and in the center of this caved-in was the bronze carriage that Wang Chong had ridden in. Its shafts, frame, and windows were scattered all over the place. And in the center of these fragments was a bronze bell as heavy as a mountain. If not for Wang Chong's quick reaction, he and his carriage would have been smashed into meat paste by that bell. Just where did this bronze bell come from? Coachman sat on the ground. His face was covered in blood, and his eyes were filled with deep fear. A fragment of the carriage pierced through his thigh, and blood was gushing out, but he didn't seem to feel it at all. If Wang Chong hadn't sent him flying in time, he would have been crushed into pieces like the carriage in front of him. Hurry up, Grandma, I'm so scared, that the surroundings were in chaos. Many people were so frightened by this sudden change that they sat on the ground. Some little girls screamed, and white-haired old women were so scared that their faces turned pale. Many people were injured by the fragments of the carriage, and their bodies were stained with blood. However, most of them were still frightened by what they saw. Bo Lang Bell. Wang Chong looked at the huge bell behind him with an ashen expression and an awful expression. More than 1,000 years ago, in the pre-Qin era, someone used this assassination method in Gu Bo Lang to deal with the first emperor. Wang Chong didn't expect that someone would use the same method to deal with him. Wang Chong scanned the surroundings and quickly looked at the sky. Unlike others, Wang Chong was very sure that this bronze bell had fallen from the sky, and from a very high place at that. But when Wang Chong raised his head, the sky was empty. There was nothing there. Where did this bronze bell come from? Someone, clean up this place and arrange for the injured to receive treatment. Yes, young master. The moment Wang Chong gave the order, figures immediately came out from hidden places in the surroundings. These were the guards of the Wang clan. Wang Chong had been conferred the title of Marquis, and the entire Wang clan viewed him with great importance. Even if Wang Chong wasn't willing, Wang Chong's big uncle Wang Zhen, Uncle Li Lin, and little uncle Wang Mi would never agree. Please follow me. Young lady, how are you? The guards of the Wang clan had just arrived when everyone was at their most relaxed. Boom! A blue stone wall closest to Wang Chong suddenly shattered. Behind the wall, a figure clad in massive armor, standing on a brilliant halo of thorns, charged out. Sivadala, Sausa, Riwala. The giant man spoke in a strange language, and before he finished speaking, his golden saber flashed. Boom! A majestic saber energy shot through the air, instantly enveloping Wang Chong's body. Even the air was cleaved in two by the saber energy. Like a wave of water, two clear spatial scars more than 10 zhang tall appeared. Ah! Chapter 662. The profound martial realm, and an expert close to the imperial martial realm. This thought flitted through the minds of the crowd. They were only ordinary guards of the Wang clan, so how could they compare to an expert of this level? Buzz! A moment later, under their stunned gazes, Wang Chong raised a finger and lightly pointed, immediately blocking that vast and terrifying saber energy. Boom! A scorching beam of sword chi shot out of Wang Chong's fingertip, shattering the saber chi into pieces. At almost the same time, Wang Chong swung his left hand. Before anyone could see what was going on, the woozy steel sword at Wang Chong's waist slashed through the air, piercing through the giant man's thick armor. The tip of the sword pierced through his heart and out his back. Clang! The armored giant's knees buckled and he fell to the ground, the dazzling halo of thorns at his feet extinguished. The giant man's eyes were wide open as he stared at the nearby Wang Chong, apparently not daring to believe that his full-strength attack had been so easily broken by Wang Chong. You overestimate yourself. Wang Chong sneered and slowly walked over with a wave of his sleeve. In the War of the Southwest, his strength had exploded, allowing him to easily break into the imperial martial realm. Even Long Qinba had been easily killed by him, let alone an opponent of this level. Moreover, the more majestic the saber energy, the better. Quality would always prevail over quantity. So Yongsun's art of god and demon obliteration was known as the #1 technique in the world, so how could ordinary saber energy compare to it? Swish! Swish! Wang Chong had barely taken 2 steps when his eyes widened. At the end of the street, he heard a shrill whistle. 3 pitch-black arrows, gleaming with azure light, flew out in a triangular formation. The moment they appeared, they were already in front of Wang Chong's face. Bzzz. Wang Chong's body slightly leaned to the side as if he had calculated it, dodging the 3 arrows by a hair. Peng, peng, peng. The 3 arrows hit a 100-year-old locust tree by the side of the road, blowing its trunk into pieces. Wang Chong easily dodged the 3 poisoned arrows. Then, his body flashed and disappeared like a wisp of smoke. When he reappeared, he was already dozens of feet away. Boom boom boom. Just behind him, another wave of arrows shot over from the opposite direction, passing by where he was originally standing. Just a moment later, a section of the wall behind him collapsed, smoke and dust billowing into the air. However, everything was far from over. Kill him! Shouts came from all directions. After the 2 waves of attacks, figures suddenly tore off their disguises and whizzed in from all directions. The Hu, the Western Regioners, the Uzan, the Abbasid Caliphate, and even the Han. These people had been following Wang Chong for who knew how long, and only now did they suddenly attack. Swish swish. The first to arrive were the crescent moon-shaped Arabian scimitars. These special scimitars were only a foot long, and the front and back of these scimitars were flat. Only the 2 sides of the scimitars, which were covered in exquisite carvings, could be touched. In truth, This was the only place where the scimitar wielders could borrow strength. After the Arabian scimitars came countless weapons. The Hu, the Western regioners, the Uzan, the Arabs, and the Han were like hungry tigers, fiercely attacking from all sides. Halos after halos intertwined under their feet, instantly surrounding Wang Chong and sealing off all his paths of movement and retreat. These Hu, the Western regioners, the Uzan, the Arabs, no matter which tribe they had belonged to, at this moment, none of that mattered. All of them had formed an invisible tacit understanding. That was to kill Wang Chong. Buzz! Even as the countless scimitars and weapons were about to strike him, Wang Chong only faintly smiled, his expression calm and tranquil, as if these people didn't even exist. Bang! With a light step, a blood-colored barrier of stellar energy emerged from his body, enveloping him like a bell. Clang! 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 All the scimitars and concealed weapons collided with this layer of qi, but it was as if they had collided with an iron wall, and were all blocked. I still haven't done my homework. Wang Chong scanned his surroundings, a cold and harsh light in his eyes. If these people had truly investigated him, they would know that he was no longer the same as he had been in the past. He was no ordinary martial artist, nor was he someone who could rely on numbers to win. It was obvious that these people had only investigated him for his outstanding grasp of the art of war, but they had no idea that his martial arts cultivation was equally astonishing. Li Sai. Wang Chong did not attack. Instead, he opened his mouth and spat out a name. Boom! In the blink of an eye, in a restaurant not far away, a tall, strong, mountain-like figure suddenly jumped down from the second floor. Behind him was a strangely long broadsword that was as tall as an adult. It was extremely eye-catching. Boom! A faint ripple flashed in the air. No one could see how Li Sai drew his sword, but in the next instant, a gray and incomparably sharp sword qi pierced through the air. The sword tore through the air, slicing the 8 assassins at the very back into 2 at the waist. The sword qi did not stop there. It shattered the stone tiles of the street, leaving behind a sword scar 10 some zhang long. Don't worry about it. Kill him first. A burly Hu spat out a string of Hu words. Disregarding everything else, he charged at Wang Chong. But in the next instant, a narrow dagger swiftly slid across his neck, as well as the necks of the other assassins. Pu. In the blink of an eye, the remaining assassins fell to the ground with their eyes wide open, as if they had been reaped from a field of straw. Marquis, are you all right? On the other side, Li Sai retracted his sword and quickly stepped forward. I'm fine. They clearly didn't investigate enough for such a problem to occur. Wang Chong indifferently said as he slowly put away the narrow Wuzi steel dagger in his hand. This was a dagger he had specially forged for himself. Its original purpose was to practice his sword qi, but it was more than enough to deal with these people. Clang! Grabbing the Wuzi steel sword in the chest of the unmoving armored man, Wang Chong forcefully pulled it out. At the same time, his left hand lightly pulled out the helmet on the armored man's head. It really is a Turk. Wang Chong appeared unsurprised. It's not just the Turks. There are also the Gogurians, Arabs, Uzan, Western regioners, and even the Khitans. Marquis won a major victory in the southwest, defeating Daluan Ruozan and Huishu Wuzong. Everyone now views you as a thorn in their side. Li Sai worriedly said. Wang Chong appeared relaxed on the outside, but he was tense on the inside. On the surface, he appeared to be alone, but in reality, all of his trusted aides were following behind him. In just a few moments, countless figures had rushed out from all directions. The restaurants, the inns, the alleys, and the 2 sides of the street were all packed with people. With Wang Chong's current status, he was completely different from that of an ordinary scion. He was no longer a scion, but a true duke. Just his title as the Son of Heaven's disciple meant that countless people were watching him, both in the open and in the shadows, protecting him. At this critical juncture, no one would be able to bear the responsibility if something were to happen to him. This is inevitable. Wang Chong waved his hand, seemingly unconcerned. After experiencing the Azura battlefield of the southwest, he had no reason to care about such a minor matter. That's right, didn't I tell you already? Why are you still calling me Marquis? Your subordinate wouldn't dare. There are differences between superiors and subordinates. Young Master is now a Marquis, and His Majesty personally bestowed the title of Young Marquis. If even people at his side don't respect Marquis, won't others be even less convinced? Li Sai lowered his head and respectfully bowed. Wang Chong helplessly shook his head. This was Li Sai's personality. He was as hard as a rock. As long as he set his mind on something, no one could change his mind. I know it's useless to talk to you, so do as you please. As Wang Chong spoke, he turned his head in another direction, where several familiar figures were hurrying over. From their clothes, Wang Chong could tell at a glance that these were people from the Bureau of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies. Marquis, my apologies for being late. How are you? Are you injured? Forgive us, Marquis. We will definitely strengthen our patrols and not allow something like this to happen again. These bastards are too bold. In broad daylight, under the bright sun, they dare to act recklessly in the capital. Several red-robed officials from the Bureau of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies kicked the corpses of the assassins on the ground, their mouths cursing. But in front of Wang Chong, all of them had their heads firmly lowered, not even daring to raise their heads. Their guilty consciences were on full display. This was broad daylight. If something happened to Wang Chong, the Holy Emperor would have to bear the consequences. Sai, go and hand things over with them. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave. Wang Chong didn't even glance at them. With these words, he took his leave. The people from the Bureau of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies had the closest relationship with King Qi. Of the 6 bureaus, King Qi's influence had penetrated the most deeply. Wang Chong would never forget the trials of the Kunwu training camp and the reward ceremony not long ago, as well as what the Chamberlain of Dependencies and the Bureau of Rights had done to him. A new emperor brought his own ministers. Back then, he had been a nameless nobody, but now, even the Bureau of Rights and the Chamberlain of Dependencies would have to look up to him. Respectfully sending off Marquis. Li Sai respectfully bowed, and then quickly turned around to help Wang Chong deal with the aftermath. With so many people dead, there had to be an explanation. Moreover, as far as Li Sai could see, the people from the Court of Judicial Review, the Imperial Army, and the city guards were already hurrying over. We failed again. This brat's senses are extremely sharp. This is the second time we've failed. That's right. The people we've tried to kill have never lived to the next day. We've even killed people stronger than him, but our methods are completely useless against him. If this continues, we'll be at our wits' end. And we can't let anyone discover us. If outsiders know of our existence, we'll be the first ones Master will kill. Chapter 663. The air was thick with the stench of blood, but the 2 black-robed men continued to drink as if nothing had happened. If Solitary Wolf were here, he would definitely be flabbergasted. These people's clothes and the auras they exuded were identical to those of the people who had pursued them in Sword Pavilion. No one had expected them to have pursued them all the way from the southwest to the capital. It seems like we'll have to ask Lu Wu to take action. Not far away, the 3rd black-robed man stepped on a corpse. He wiped the blood-stained sword in his hand and suddenly spoke. In an instant, the entire restaurant fell into a deathly silence, and the air was faintly filled with the smell of fear. What, you're not willing? Don't forget, if the mission fails, we'll all die. The 3rd black-robed man coldly sneered. But Lu Wu is too murderous. If we make too much of a ruckus and attract the attention of that person in the Imperial Palace, all of us will be doomed. The black-robed man drinking at the table said in a trembling voice. The capital of the Tang dynasty was known as the most dangerous place in the world precisely because the most powerful existence in the world presided over the Taiji Palace, the son of heaven of the Tang dynasty. Hearing this, the third black-robed man immediately fell silent, and a look of deep fear appeared in his eyes. Relax. We're just some small shrimp. How could an existence like him possibly care about us? And as the emperor, he has a myriad of affairs to attend to every day. Do you really think that he would throw aside the affairs of the court to deal with us minor figures? These words seemed to be meant for the two black-robed men, but it was more likely that the third black-robed man was trying to convince himself. In any case, we have to do this even if we don't want to. If we don't want to die, let Lu Wu out. As long as we can kill that brat, we'll have rendered a great service. When the time comes, we can just leave the capital as quickly as possible. You don't think that we have any other choice, do you? The third black-robed man's voice grew firmer and firmer. Let's do as you say. The eyes of the two black-robed men flickered. After a long period of silence, they finally nodded. Once Lu Wu appears, that brat is doomed. But this way, we have to leave as quickly as possible. With that last sentence, the restaurant gradually returned to silence, and there was no more sound. The assassination on the street was just a minor interlude to Wang Chong, and it was very difficult for it to even cause his mood to waver. After finding another carriage, Wang Chong turned around and headed straight for the palace gate. Take me to the death row. Wang Chong flashed his noble token and headed towards the death prison unimpeded. Wang Chong was the son of heaven's disciple, and his young marquis token had the mark of a 5-clawed golden dragon. This was unique amongst all the marquises, and it was a special gift that the Holy Emperor had bestowed upon Wang Chong. Other than the depths of the harem and a few other special places, Wang Chong could use the young marquis token to move freely through the majority of the imperial palace. The death dungeon was a place where criminals who had committed serious crimes were locked up. Those who were locked up in the death dungeon rarely got out. However, compared to the celestial prison, where only the Holy Emperor's pardon could allow one to escape, the death dungeon was much more lenient. Wang Chong's second brother, Wang Bei, was locked up there. Marquis, please come in. It was still the same guards, but when they saw Wang Chong, they had much more reverence on their faces. As they spoke, they lowered their heads and gazed at the ground, not even daring to breathe too loudly. That was then, and this was now. Wang Chong's reputation was like a thunderclap in the ears of these death dungeon guards, and they were filled with reverence. This was not Wang Chong's first time entering the death dungeon. After giving a slight nod to the guards, Wang Chong passed through the gate of the death dungeon and headed towards the depths of the dungeon with familiarity. The dungeon was deathly still, and the air was suffused with an intense and unsettling aura of death. It was like he had stepped into a dangerous netherworld. However, despite this, the dungeon did not feel cold at all. On the contrary, the air was filled with a scorching energy, as if there was an active volcano underground. Compared to the first time Wang Chong had come here, everything was completely different. Second brother. Wang Chong called out. Looking at the disheveled figure in the dungeon with his back facing him, a trace of melancholy flashed across Wang Chong's eyes. This constant release of heat was not normal, and Wang Chong could feel that his second brother's berserker syndrome was getting worse. The dungeon was quiet, and there was nothing but the heat that filled the dungeon. Have you gone to see Su Yiqin? After an unknown amount of time, Wang Bei suddenly spoke. His voice was indifferent, and no emotions could be heard from it. Yes. Wang Chong nodded, a faint smile on his lips. No one knew that Su Yiqin had been imprisoned in the Su clan. No one else had told him, but Wang Chong's second brother, Wang Bei, had left a small note for Wang Chong. In the War of the Southwest, Su Yiqin had arranged for the second wave of rations, armaments, and soldiers. However, they had barely made it 300 li from the capital before King Qi had seized and intercepted them. The one who had acted as King Qi's vanguard and led everyone to stop this matter was Zhou Zhang. King Qi was an imperial prince of the Tang dynasty, a member of the imperial family. There were many things that he could not personally do, but Zhou Zhang was different. He was King Qi's adopted son and held King Qi's token. He could use his authority to obstruct Wang Chong. But this would not have much of an effect on King Qi. At the very least, he would not be impeached by the imperial censors. If there really was a problem, King Qi would be able to cleanly explain himself. In the situation at the time, Su Yiqin was beset with problems both inside and outside. She was under pressure from both her clan and King Qi, unable to free herself. And the second wave of rations, armaments, and soldiers was extremely important to the Annam Protectorate, which was bitterly struggling to hold on in the southwest. It was at this critical juncture that Zhou Zhang and King Qi were stuck. But not even Zhou Zhang had expected that he would encounter Wang Bei, his lifelong nemesis, who had just been released from the death row prison. In that battle, Zhou Zhang had been heavily wounded, and just when he was about to be killed, Wang Bei had suddenly awakened. However, the people at Zhou Zhang's side had been reduced to piles of corpses by Wang Bei's berserker syndrome. In the capital, a plot against Wang Chong had been vanquished by the sudden appearance of Wang Bei. Wang Bei had obtained the promise of the Holy Emperor that he could be spared from death, but Wang Bei had no way of dealing with Su Yiqin. After all, this was an internal matter of the Su clan, and it was not appropriate for Wang Bei to interfere. It wasn't like he could have a berserker syndrome break out and kill every member of the Su clan. Thus, after that battle, Wang Bei had left a note for Wang Chong and then returned to the death row prison. Wang Bei had thus successfully avoided the censor's impeachment, and he was in the forbidden area of the imperial city and in the death row prison. Even though King Qi had flown into a rage when he heard about this, there was nothing he could do. "I can only help you this much. Since you've already resolved everything, you shouldn't have come here. This isn't a place where you should be," Wang Bei said, his back still to Wang Chong, his voice utterly emotionless. "You're my second brother, and we're family. Why can't I come?" Wang Chong calmly said. "There's no need to say such things. I'll only help you this once. I won't help you every time. In addition, after you leave, I'll tell the guards that I won't be meeting with anyone again, so, there's no need to come again." Wang Bei's voice was incomparably cold, suffused with the thick meaning of expelling a guest. As Wang Chong gazed at that familiar back, his heart throbbed in pain. This was his second brother. Ever since he was young, he had always done things his own way, bearing all the pain by himself. He had believed that he could resolve everything alone, but the situation had changed. "Second brother, I know what you're thinking, but there are some things that you can't resolve by hiding in the death row prison. Moreover, the situation has already changed. Running away won't solve anything." As Wang Chong gazed at his disheveled second brother, a hint of respect flashed through his eyes, as well as deep sympathy and pain. Bang! A moment later, Wang Chong stomped his foot, causing the prison to tremble. A majestic blood-red color suddenly erupted from Wang Chong's body, causing the already scorching heat in the prison to rise another level. Wang Chong's temperament had originally been gentle and refined, but now he seemed to have become a completely different person. His aura was wild and tyrannical, filled with a thirst for blood and slaughter. If one looked closely, they would discover that Wang Chong's aura was 60 to 70% similar to Wang Bei's. "This is impossible." The ground trembled. Wang Bei whipped his head around, his eyes wide and bloodshot. He stared in disbelief at Wang Chong, who had a similarly savage expression on his face. How could something like this happen? Only one person in a generation of the Wang clan will have the berserker syndrome. I thought that I alone was enough. How could you also have the berserker syndrome? Clatter. Clatter. The arm-thick chains vibrated, and in a flash of light, Wang Bei appeared next to the bars, his pale arms reaching out to grab Wang Chong. But when he was still several feet away from Wang Chong, he suddenly stopped. The entire prison had been set up to prevent Wang Bei's berserker syndrome. As long as he stood in the corridor, it was impossible for him to be injured. But Wang Bei didn't seem to notice at all. The veins on his forehead were bulging, and his expression was savage, as if he had received a huge shock. The Berserker syndrome, there are actually 2 people in a generation. How can this be? How can this be? Wang Bei muttered to himself. As he spoke, he clutched his head with both hands, his body trembling, and his disheveled hair wildly dancing in the wind. Ah! This can't be. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. At the last moment, Wang Bei suddenly raised his head. His eyes were wide open as he let out an extremely pained howl. The entire prison shook from his howl. Wang Chong didn't say anything. Seeing Wang Bei in pain, a similar look flitted through his eyes. The Berserker syndrome was the curse of the Wang clan, and it was a burden that Wang Bei had shouldered alone. Ever since he first discovered that he had the Berserker syndrome, Wang Bei had deliberately distanced himself from everyone. He had even begged the King of Song and the Holy Emperor to lock him in the depths of the death prison. Wang Chong knew what Wang Bei was afraid of. He was afraid that Wang Chong would end up like that legendary ancestor and kill all of his family. If possible, Wang Chong didn't want to force Wang Bei like this. But Wang Chong knew very well that he wasn't just forcing Wang Bei, but also helping him. If Wang Bei continued to be locked in this sunless death prison, his second brother's life would truly be ruined. Chapter 664. Moreover, the world had changed. At a time like this, Wang Chong needed the help of his family, his second brother Wang Bei, even more. His second brother had to know that there were some matters even more important than the Berserker syndrome. Second brother, don't deceive yourself. You know that the Berserker syndrome can sense each other. When I first entered the capital, you already knew. This is why you avoided me and hid in the death prison of the Imperial Palace. Wang Chong sighed. How could his second brother's thoughts be hidden from him? But even though he had guessed at his second brother's thoughts, Wang Chong's eyes showed no satisfaction, only bitterness. But second brother, there are some things that can't be avoided. As Wang Chong spoke, he leaned his back against the wall and slowly sat down. Whether or not his second brother would listen, there were some things that Wang Chong had to say. At the very least, he had to try one last time. In the prison, Wang Bei's entire body was trembling, seemingly completely immersed in his own world and hearing nothing. But Wang Chong knew that the other party had heard every single word he had said. Because this was his brother. This was his second brother. He might not necessarily respond, but he would definitely hear and help him. Big brother, did you know? I've been made a marquis, and His Majesty personally made me the young marquis. In the history of the Tang dynasty, the Sage King personally made me a marquis. This is probably the only time in the history of the Tang dynasty that the Sage King personally made me a marquis. In addition, Father and Big Brother have also been rewarded, their statuses greatly elevated. In the future, they will assuredly be promoted step by step in the army. Your Wang clan is certain to enjoy limitless glory, like the noon sun. Even King Qi will not dare to act as he did in the past and recklessly deal with me. The prison was still quiet, with only Wang Chong's voice. But at some point, Wang Bei, whose body had been trembling in pain, had calmed down. Although there was still no response, he was no longer as agitated as before, his entire body much calmer. However, what Wang Chong was about to say next was obviously not what he had imagined. But Big Brother, did you know? Right now, everyone in the capital is envious of the limitless glory, but second brother, did you know? Father, Big Brother, and I almost died on Mount Yuanfeng in the southwest, never to return. As Wang Chong spoke, he turned his head to look at his second brother, Wang Chong, who was in the cell. Seeing his second brother's body visibly tremble, Wang Chong smiled and continued. I know what you're thinking. I know you don't want to hurt us when the Berserker syndrome breaks out. But do you know that even if you lock yourself up in this prison in the palace, it won't change anything? If Big Brother, Father, and I are destined to die, we will still die in the end. The only difference is whether you kill us or not. But for us, is there any difference? The Southwest, what in the world happened? A voice suddenly rang out from the cell, interrupting Wang Chang's words. Although Wang Bei still had his back to Wang Chong, this was the first time Wang Chong had taken the initiative to ask a question. Wang Chong grinned. Without hiding anything, he gave a detailed account of the Southwestern War. As a descendant of the Wang clan, his second brother also had the right to know these things. The entire Southwestern War, from the departure, to the first melee, to the final decisive battle, had been filled with countless twists and turns. As one of the main participants and decision-makers in this war, Wang Chang's narration of this war that had affected countless people in the world was far more detailed and soul-stirring than anyone else's. Outsiders could only see one side of the glory, but beneath that calm surface, the turbulent undercurrents and waves were far fiercer and more dangerous than anyone could imagine. Wang Chong spoke of many, many things. This was probably the most detailed account of the Southwest, and the number of people in the entire Tang dynasty who could hear such an account was few and far between. On the other side, in the cell, Wang Bei said nothing, nor did she show any expression or movement. But Wang Chong knew that she was definitely listening more carefully than anyone else. Second brother, everyone has a responsibility for the rise and fall of the world. Our Wang clan is a clan of ministers and generals, so we naturally bear more responsibility than anyone else. If even we do not do our utmost, what hope does the empire have to speak of? When the nest is overturned, no egg can remain unscathed. You have also seen the crisis of the empire this time. The Tang dynasty is no longer the Tang dynasty of the past, and the foreign countries are no longer the foreign countries of the past. The world has already changed. Beneath this calm surface, there are already turbulent undercurrents. I hope that this is not the first time, and certainly not the last. This time, we were lucky enough to defeat the Mengshi, Yusang army, but what about next time, and the time after that? What if all the foreign countries on the border of the Tang dynasty join together? At that time, will we still be so lucky? Second brother, my strength alone is too weak. I want to do some things, to change some things, but there are some things that I cannot bear alone. In this world, there are some things that are more important than the Berserker syndrome. Second brother, I need your help. After saying these words, Wang Chong gave a deep sigh and stood up. Whether or not his second brother would listen, he had already said what needed to be said. What came next was not for him to decide. Second brother, in this world, there are some things that are more important than the Berserker syndrome. The Berserker syndrome is only a curse on the body, not the soul. Don't let your mind be controlled by your body. After saying these words, Wang Chong stood up and left. The prison behind him fell into a long, deathly silence. Wang Bei sat there alone, not saying a word. No one knew what he was thinking. At night, the capital was quiet, with only the sound of the night watchman and the patrolling of the city guards and imperial army. The Wang clan residence was dotted with red lanterns, like the sparks in the sky. In the four corners of the Wang clan residence, no one had noticed that early in the morning, black-robed men had suddenly appeared on the roofs of the Wang clan residence. It's about time. We can summon Lu Wu now. Remember, don't let anyone from the Wang clan escape. In addition, if the Imperial Army and Night Watchmen come, kill them. Don't let them get in the way. The group of black-robed men stared at the Wang clan residence in the center. It was quiet there, the red lanterns hanging from the eaves making the place seem even more serene and peaceful. It was already deep into the night. At this time, the maids and servants of the Wang clan had all fallen into a deep sleep. Even the guards had gone to bed, and the few patrolling guards were no longer a threat. This was the best chance to strike. Buzz! A group of black-robed men sat cross-legged on the eaves of the Wang clan residence, their 10 fingers rapidly forming hand seals. In the next moment, looking down from the sky, one could see dark beams of light suddenly shooting out from one of the black-robed men to another. In the blink of an eye, an invisible and bizarre formation had enveloped the entire Wang clan residence. Wang. In the darkness of the night, no one noticed that an enormous dome of light, pitch black beyond compare, suddenly rose up from the four corners of the Wang clan residence. Finally, it completely enveloped the Wang clan residence. If one looked up from the inside, one would see that the sky above the Wang clan residence had darkened, but no one had noticed. As the darkness deepened, an invisible and bizarre atmosphere began to spread through the air, growing more and more uneasy. Kacha. The ground of a pavilion in the northeast corner of the Wang clan residence suddenly split open, and a massive sound came from underground. Who is it? Who is it? Where is it? Several Wang family guards heard the noise and quickly flew over. However, before the two of them could react, pang, pang, two arms as thick as a grown man's thighs and as hard as iron drilled out from the ground, grabbing their ankles. Ah! There was a shrill scream as their clothes and even their stellar energy began to burn. Blazing flames gushed out of their eyes, mouths, and ears. In the blink of an eye, the two Wang clan guards had been burnt to a crisp, turning into thousands of black particles that scattered into the air. Rumble. The earth split open, and the two thick, steel-like arms pushed outwards, completely parting the ground around the pavilion like a wave. Ah! A bestial roar came from underground, and a strange, giant-like figure rose up from the ground. His body was incomparably huge. His two arms were like the thighs of an adult, and his two thighs were like two huge stone pillars. Standing there, he was 7 meters tall, much taller than the invincible General Li Sai. Kill! The giant roared, and his entire body exploded with the brutal and vicious energy of a primordial beast. Boom! It was only a single punch, and before his fist could even touch it, the pavilion that was a few steps away was immediately shattered into pieces by an invisible force. And those wooden fragments seemed to be ignited by something, burning fiercely, and the flames soared dozens of feet into the air. Kill! Kill everyone! The giant roared, his eyes glowing red as he repeated the same words over and over again. Waves of intense killing intent condensed into a tangible substance, and even the surrounding space began to distort. Bang! Bang! The giant's gaze swept around, and he quickly set his sights on a brightly lit study in the distance. He strode over. In the darkness of the night, that study was particularly eye-catching. To the giant, it was like a beacon pointing the way. Ha! Who is it? How dare you come to the Wang clan and cause trouble? Chapter 665. Mayasame Ayaka was the first to notice the anomaly in the Wang clan, so she was the first to make a move. When everyone in the Wang clan was asleep, Wang Chong had arranged for Mayasame Ayaka to be the #1 expert of the Wang clan at night. Clang! Without any mishap, Mayasame Ayaka stabbed her sword into the giant's chest. However, sparks flew, and a piercing metallic screech sounded. Mayasame Ayaka's sword was unable to pierce through the giant's chest at all. How is this possible? Mayasame Ayaka was astonished. Her face paled, and she lost her composure in an instant. The sword in her hand might seem unassuming, but it was actually a woozy steel weapon specially forged for her by Wang Chong. It was incomparably sharp, capable of slicing through a single hair. There were few things in the world that could withstand such a weapon. Even the famed plate armor of the Uzun tribe was nothing before this woozy steel weapon, needless to say, anything else. Yet, this giant was actually able to block her woozy steel sword with just his physical body. This was something that Mayasame Ayaka had never imagined before. It was simply inconceivable. Roar! Mayasame Ayaka was taken aback by the roar, but the giant wasn't. With a flash of light, a fist the size of an alms bowl abruptly smashed toward Mayasame Ayaka with a seemingly slow yet swift fist. Ah! Mayasame Ayaka screamed in agony as she was sent flying along with her sword. With a resounding boom, she smashed through a roof a dozen zhang away, along with countless other roof tiles. It was unknown whether she was still alive or not. Roar! After sending Mayasame Ayaka flying with a single punch, the giant paid no heed to her at all. Instead, he dashed toward the brightly lit study in the distance. An assassin! The entire Wang clan was thrown into chaos. Such a huge commotion had attracted everyone's attention. Many guards rushed out of their rooms and charged toward the giant from all directions. Ah! The giant punched out, and countless people screamed as they were sent flying. Many people were burned to ashes by a purple flame while they were still in the air. Boom! 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 No matter how many people there were or how strong they were, all of them were like tigers that had entered a flock of sheep. With a single punch, they were shattered into pieces and burned into ashes. All of the Wang family guards, no matter how many there were like ants in front of the giant. No one was a match for him. Flames spread through the Wang family estate. All the halls, pavilions, waterside pavilions, and corridors collapsed and burned. The giant was like a destroyer, turning everything in its path into ashes. Stop! Just when the giant was on the verge of destroying the Wang clan and killing all of the guards, and then heading toward Wang Chang's residence, a roar echoed out. Rumble! Just as the giant was about to break out of the encirclement, a tall figure clad in heavy armor slammed into the giant. In the study, a lantern was lit, and Wang Chong was seated cross-legged on the floor. After returning from the imperial palace and meeting with his mother, Wang Chong had been cultivating in his study. This was how Wang Chong had spent the majority of his time after returning to the capital. But tonight was destined to be different. Ah! Screams suddenly came from outside. At the start, Wang Chong had paid them little attention. Although the Wang clan could not be considered a dragon's lair or tiger's den, it was still filled with experts and not a place an ordinary person could barge in. Moreover, Mayasame Ayaka and Li Sai were secretly patrolling. But gradually, Wang Chong began to sense that something was wrong. The screams outside did not weaken in the slightest. On the contrary, they only grew louder and louder, accompanied by the sounds of buildings collapsing. This was not a sign that the conflict was being resolved. What's going on? The capital is at the feet of the Son of Heaven. How could someone have barged in here? Frowning, Wang Chong suddenly stood up. Slamming open the door, Wang Chong walked out of the study. Even though Wang Chong had already prepared himself, he still couldn't help but be stunned by the sight outside. Although the Wang clan residence could not compare to King Qi's or the King of Song's residences, it was still a clan of ministers and generals. It had all kinds of pavilions, gardens, and ponds. But when Wang Chong walked out of the study, he saw that everything had changed. Many of the buildings, gardens, and ponds had been razed to the ground. And on the remains of these buildings, flames blazed. Wherever Wang Chong looked, the ground was covered in a thick layer of black ash. And in the center of this black ash was a muscular man, around 2.7 meters tall, standing like a boulder in the ruins of the Wang clan residence. Across from him, the invincible great general Li Sai was engaged in a fierce battle. Although Wang Chong hadn't seen the battle, he could smell the scent of burning flesh and blood in the air, and he instantly paled. Just what sort of monster is this? Wang Chong had seen his fair share of experts, including Hushu Wuzong and Duan Gechuan, but none of them had given Wang Chong the feeling this monster gave him. This was a killing machine that existed for the sake of destruction. Wang Chong could not sense any emotion from him, only a thick desire to kill and destroy. Clang! Without the slightest hesitation, Wang Chong drew his Wuzi steel sword from the sheath at his waist. Boom! With a stomp of his foot, Wang Chong shot into the air like a cannonball. Leaping Dragon Art. With a roar of a dragon, Wang Chong turned his body in midair and instantly used his strongest leaping dragon art. This was originally a spear technique, but in Wang Chong's hands, it could be used with any weapon, and at the same time, it retained its original power. Boom! With a flash of light, Wang Chong became one with his sword, and like a meteor, he slammed into the giant's head. The woozy steel sword in his hand also stabbed into the Baihui acupoint on the top of the giant's head. With Wang Chang's current strength, this leaping dragon art was extremely powerful in his hands. In an instant, there was a loud boom, and the earth shook. The 2.7-meter giant's feet cracked, and half of his long legs sank deep into the ground. How could this be? Wang Chang's pupils shrank, and his heart trembled. At this moment, Li Sai's voice suddenly rang in his ears. "Young master, watch out!" Before Wang Chong could react, he saw a fist the size of an earthenware bowl, containing the power to destroy heaven and earth, rapidly growing from small to large and smashing toward him. Bang! Without any hesitation, Wang Chong punched out, and the giant's fists collided violently. Boom! An earth-shattering power instantly swept over, and Wang Chong's body trembled. Even with his astonishing strength, he was completely unable to withstand it, and his whole body was sent flying. Whoosh! A purple flame ignited from Wang Chong's right hand, which had collided with the giant. What kind of monster is this? The stellar energy in Wang Chong's body exploded, and instantly extinguished the purple flame. However, the stellar energy in his body had also been greatly depleted. "Young master, be careful. This monster is very dangerous. The inner force in his body can detonate our stellar energy. If you are not strong enough, you will be directly burned to ashes." That's how all the guards died. Li Sai forced the monster back with his sword, and then retreated to Wang Chong's side. Wang Chong noticed that his right fist was charred black. Obviously, like him, it was also burned by the strange purple flame of the giant. But the strangest thing is the black scales on his body. Our woozy steel sword can't hurt him at all. Li Sai's chest rose and fell rapidly. He stared at the giant opposite him, and deep shock was revealed in the depths of his eyes. With his extraordinary cultivation base and the woozy steel broadsword on his back, Li Sai did not know how many powerful opponents he had killed, but there had never been an opponent like the monster in front of him, who made Li Sai feel so frightened and dangerous. A monster that could block the woozy steel sword with just his body alone should not exist in this world. Wang Chong did not speak, and his eyes were fixed on the opposite side. He did not notice it before, but after hearing Li Sai's words, he looked carefully. On the surface of the giant's body, Wang Chong really did see many fine black scales. This is not something a human can have. Wang Chong's eyelids twitched. The creature in front of him had already surpassed the scope of a human. Li Sai was already the tallest person he had ever seen, but the creature in front of him was much taller than Li Sai. This was a real giant. And on the surface of his body, those fine black scales that could block the woozy steel sword were definitely not normal. In Wang Chong's memory, he had never seen such a monster, whether it was in his previous life or this life. Kill! I want to kill you all. Although Wang Chong and Li Sai had stopped, the giant did not. Its gaze quickly shifted from Li Sai to Wang Chong, and its eyes blazed with a bloody light. Bang! In a flash of light, a violet flame suddenly descended from the sky, smashing into Wang Chong and Li Sai. Let's go! The violet flame fell to the ground, triggering a heaven-shaking explosion. Countless stones and violet flames shot out in every direction. In the face of the giant's sudden attack, Wang Chong and Li Sai swiftly dodged, one on the left and one on the right. Ha ha ha, that brat came out on his own. Lu Wu has already locked onto his target. That brat is dead for sure. No one can stop Lu Wu. That fellow has boundless strength and is impervious to swords and spears. Just the violet flames on his body are enough to burn them to ash. Pay attention to your cover. Starting from now, don't let anyone see you, and don't let anyone discover you. The longer Lu Wu fights, the angrier he will become, and the stronger he will become. Right now, we only need to pay attention to the finishing touches. Kill the target. We'll immediately leave tomorrow. In the four corners of the Wang clan residence, black-robed men sat cross-legged on the roof, their eyes glimmering with cold light. Lu Wu would not stop until he killed the last person. The Wang clan was doomed. Chapter 666. Boom. 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 Dust churned and waves of energy surged. Within the Wang clan residence, Lu Wu was like a massive beast in human form, madly pursuing Wang Chong. His strength was inconceivably vast. Nothing, whether it was the walls or the buildings, could stop him. Careful. Li Sai gripped his sword with both hands, his mind extremely nervous. From the moment Wang Chong had appeared, this monster had placed all his attention on Wang Chong. Wherever Wang Chong fled, he would pursue him. Wherever he went, not a single tile remained. Li Sai, try his armpit, abdomen, back, tailbone, and life gate. Wang Chong shot into the air like a cannonball, flipping through the air before landing on a nearby roof without so much as a speck of dust as he did so. This giant was so powerful that even Wang Chong, a cultivator of the imperial martial realm, could not stop him. And his body, which was impervious to swords and spears and not even the Wuzi steel sword, made it impossible for Wang Chong to use his little yin-yang art. It's useless. This monster doesn't have any weak points. Our strength isn't enough to deal with him. Li Sai's voice came from the rear. The broadsword in his hand was taller than a man and could cleave apart mountains, but when it landed on the giant's body, it seemed to be as light as a feather, unable to affect him in the slightest. Impossible. Just how tough is this monster's body? Li Sai clenched his teeth tightly, and his heart was in turmoil. In order to completely block the heavy blows of his broadsword, one needed not just a powerful defense, but also an extremely high level of toughness. Scales that could block the edge of the Wuzi steel sword and the body that could block the stellar energy of the broadsword were simply inconceivable. Neither Wang Chong nor Li Sai had ever encountered such a strange opponent. He must have a weakness. A person without a weakness doesn't exist. I don't believe that his eyes can withstand the Wuzi steel sword. Wang Chong shouted. As he spoke, he pointed out with his finger, and two strands of almost tangible sword chi shot out towards the giant's eyes. However, at the next moment, Wang Chong's sword chi seemed to have collided with an invisible wall of chi. Chi waves spread out in all directions, and the two sword chi completely disappeared. Both Wang Chong and Li Sai, who was not far away, turned pale when they saw this. The giant's cultivation had reached an extremely shocking level. His defense was omnidirectional and three-dimensional. If even the eyes had such a powerful defense, it was hard to imagine how they could defeat this monster. While Wang Chong was thinking, Lu Wu raised his right hand and punched again. There was nothing in the air, but Wang Chong couldn't help but widen his eyes. With a stomp of his foot, he once more shot into the air. Right below him, the earth rumbled, and the two-story building collapsed in an instant. Then, it burned with raging purple flames. Lu Wu's attacks were silent, and when he was still several zhang away, he would feel an invisible wave of energy pressing down on him. If he didn't react quickly enough, he wouldn't even know how he died. Moreover, the violet flames hidden in his internal energy were a massive threat. Just what is this thing? Countless thoughts flitted through Wang Chong's mind. He had been trying to figure out the origins of this thing this entire time, but to no avail. Even with the memories of his two lives, Wang Chong couldn't find any information on this monster. This was simply impossible. As the former Grand Marshal of the world, Wang Chong had the highest level of authority in that world. Whether it was the Tang dynasty, the Uzan, the Turks, or even the Arabs, Wang Chong even knew about a secret like the skyquaking giants. However, he couldn't find any information about this monster, let alone investigate its abilities. This was absolutely abnormal. Buzz! While Wang Chong was thinking, there was a flash of light, and a figure rapidly grew larger and larger in his eyes. Not good. How did it suddenly get so fast? Wang Chong was taken aback. Although the giant was strong, it couldn't compare to him in speed. This was the crux of why he could move with such ease. But at this moment, for some reason, the giant's speed had increased significantly. Boom! A massive pillar behind Wang Chong was pulverized while Wang Chong instantly split into three, his woozy steel sword slashing at the giant's neck. Clang! Sparks flew as Wang Chong's woozy steel sword was blocked by the black scales on the giant's neck. Clang clang clang. At almost the same time, Li Sai flew over, his woozy steel sword slashing at the giant's head, neck, back, thigh. The sparks were extremely eye-catching in the darkness. But both Wang Chong's and Li Sai's woozy steel swords were blocked. Roar! The giant raised his arms, and a wild, boundless power suddenly exploded in all directions with him as the center. With this one strike, Wang Chong, the former war saint, and Li Sai, the future invincible great general, were both sent flying like ragdolls. A purple flame, like kerosene, spread throughout their bodies, burning fiercely. Damn it! Wang Chong clenched his teeth. He could sense that this monster was getting stronger and stronger, and the terrifying violet flames were like maggots in his bones, constantly consuming his energy. On the battlefield, Wang Chong wouldn't have cared. The little yin-yang art could replenish his energy at any time. But in a different place, the little yin-yang art was instantly rendered useless. Kill! Kill everyone! The bloody light in Lu Wu's eyes blazed and a series of cracking sounds came from his body. The giant that had already been 278 meters tall suddenly grew even taller, reaching 289 meters. He seemed even taller, more muscular, and more terrifying, brimming with a boundless pressure. Bang! Lu Wu's two stone pillar-like legs stomped against the ground, leaving afterimages in his wake. Bursting with killing intent, he shot toward Wang Chong like a bolt of lightning. Young master, be careful. Li Sai was alarmed. At this moment, the giant's energy was even more frenzied and violent, even more dangerous and lethal. But what worried Li Sai the most was that the giant's energy was growing stronger and stronger. Don't kill my big brother. Suddenly, the crisp voice of a girl rang out in his ears. Several dozen zhang away, a group of maids, and servants from the Wang clan were trembling in fear. At the front of the group was a beautiful woman and a little girl of 8 or 9, who were particularly striking. The little girl angrily glared at Lu Wu. Bang! Peng! There was a loud sound. Without any warning, the little girl suddenly rushed over. Yao. Little sister, get out of the way. Wang Chong paled, but his voice was still echoing through the air. A second later, Wang Xiaoyao's petite body left a long afterimage behind her as she charged forward like a bolt of lightning, colliding with Lu Wu's mountainous body. Rumble. The earth quaked and the heavens swayed. The collision of these two figures, whose bodies were completely disproportionate in size, produced a sound like that of a primordial beast. Amidst the roar, the shockwave exploded. Wave after wave roared in all directions, even the tiles and gravel on the ground were blown into the air. Peng, within the surging dust, a petite figure was sent flying, but very quickly, that petite figure let out a soft snort, and once again rushed into the surging dust. Little sister. Wang Chong was alarmed. Li Sai, hurry, and do it. Wang Chong became one with his sword and charged into the dust. Almost at the same time, Li Sai let out a loud roar, and like a shocking rainbow, he charged into the rolling smoke and dust. Boom boom boom. A heaven-shaking explosion came from the dust. Wang Chong, Li Sai, and Wang Xiaoyao were engaged in a fierce battle with Lu Wu. Both Wang Chong and Li Sai were top-class experts of the present age, but the truly astonishing one was Wang Xiaoyao. This youngest daughter of the Wang clan had been born with divine strength, and after receiving the guidance of Wang Chang's master, the evil emperor, her astonishing talent had been unearthed, and her strength had risen to a new level, becoming even more terrifying and astonishing. In the War of the Southwest, Wang Xiaoyao had used almost no martial arts, but she had 2 golden hammers in her hands. Whether it was man or horse, she could take care of them with a single blow. There was no need for a second blow. Not even those generals had been able to block a simple blow from her hammer. This sort of divine strength could only be described as terrifying. In terms of pure physical strength, neither the greatly strengthened Wang Chong nor the future invincible great general Li Sai could compare to Wang Chong's little sister. The difference between the two was not just a little. The two were simply not on the same level. But even so, the combined strength of Wang Chong, Li Sai, and Wang Xiaoyao was only barely able to stop the two. 7-meter-tall Lu Wu. Roar. Kill. 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 Kill them all. The giant Lu Wu roared again and again, his arms swinging, each blow carrying enough power to shatter mountains. Wave after wave of astral energy surged out from his body. That special power kept detonating the astral energy within their bodies, causing purple flames to burn. Like kerosene, the flames spread across their bodies, rapidly depleting their strength. What a formidable child! How could the Wang clan have so many formidable individuals? The sight of the ferocious Wang Xiaoyao charging out of the Wang clan residence and reversing the course of battle in a single move and thwarting Lu Wu's assault, the black-robed men on the roofs of the buildings around the Wang clan residence were all stunned. One Wang Chong was already very formidable. Given the strength of their organization, he had always been able to detect and evade all their attempts. Then there was Li Sai, who was actually able to fight against Lu Wu in a direct confrontation. And now, a child of a few years had suddenly appeared. She seemed like a statue carved from jade, but her killing power was simply unheard of, even more ferocious than Li Sai. This was something that the black-robed men had never imagined. Chapter 667. So what if they have 3 imperial martial experts? They're useless against Lu Wu. They'll still die in vain. Soon, in the northwest corner, a black-robed man wearing a sinister black iron demon mask on his face sneered. He was rather glad that he had used Lu Wu tonight. Otherwise, if he had recklessly charged in, unaware of the Wang clan's 3 hidden imperial martial experts, he might have suffered grievous losses. Everyone, listen up. Do your best to maintain the boundary. In another hour, the battle will be over. The black-robed man wearing the savage demon mask coldly said. Lu Wu was impervious to swords and spears, and no weapon could wound him. Moreover, the longer the battle went on, the more furious he would become, and the stronger he would become. In the end, the Wang clan, including the targets, would still be doomed. Not even the people of the Wang clan could have imagined that the formation they had set up was not simply to prevent the Wang clan from escaping or to alert others to the fighting in the Wang clan. More importantly, it was to prevent Lu Wu from harming his own people. Once Lu Wu fought for more than an hour, he would reach a critical point, and his speed, strength, and violet flames would undergo a qualitative transformation. In a short period of time, they would reach an inconceivable level. Once Lu Wu went berserk, he would need only 10 minutes to raise the entire Wang clan residence to the ground. Only after 10 minutes, when all the targets had been killed and there were no living beings in the vicinity, would Lu Wu calm down. But not even the black-robed man could have predicted that the situation would develop in a different direction. Yaya, I don't believe that you're stronger than me. In the middle of the battle, Wang Xiaoyao had been repeatedly shaken by Lu Wu's attacks, and her heart had been provoked into a vicious rage, her body exploding with brute strength. Thump! Lu Xiaoyao leapt up and nimbly landed on the back of Lu Wu's shoulder. One of her small hands wrapped around Lu Wu's neck while the other clawed at Lu Wu's neck. Awoo! Lu Wu's entire body trembled in pain, and then he let out a shrill howl. But all the sound was concentrated within the Wang clan residence, and not a single sound escaped. Who asked you to hit me? Who asked you to hit me? Wang Xiaoyao clenched her teeth and shouted. She had always had a personality that refused to admit defeat, and in this battle with Lu Wu, she had been suppressed the entire time. Her temper had long since exploded. Bang bang bang. Punch after punch, Wang Xiaoyao's small hands seemed to be exuding the strength of a mountain, each blow causing Lu Wu's body to tremble. This was even more powerful than the attacks from Wang Chong or Li Sai. Lu Wu's physical defense was extremely formidable, but the Wang clan's little sister's greatest strength was her astonishing innate divine strength. She was a complete match for Lu Wu. Ow! Lu Wu howled in pain, and with a fierce elbow strike, he sent Wang Xiaoyao flying. Little sister. Wang Chong stood on his tiptoes, drawing an arc in the air as he hurriedly flew over. With a flash, his right arm stretched out and steadily supported Wang Xiaoyao from behind. Third brother, I'm fine. What kind of monster is this? I still managed to rip off a few of your scales. Wang Xiaoyao spat on the ground, and with a wave of her hand, she tossed away a few black shards. Scales? Wang Chong's eyes widened as he looked in the direction Wang Xiaoyao had thrown them. Not far away, in a pile of rubble, several unremarkable black scales had appeared, their surfaces glimmering with a cold and gloomy light. Although these were just a few ordinary black scales that were unremarkable in a pile of rubble, the sight of them instantly set off massive waves. Bzzz. Wang Chong's eyes flashed as he suddenly raised his head to look at the nearby Lu Wu, who was locked in a fierce battle with Li Sai. At first glance, this massive monster of unknown origin seemed to have not changed at all, but Wang Chong quickly made a new discovery. Looking at its neck, Wang Chong could clearly see that it was missing a few scales, and there was also faint purple blood seeping out of its neck. In shock, Wang Chong seemed to understand something. He turned his head to the innocent-looking little sister, his face brimming with shock. Wang Chong had known of his little sister's innate divine strength since she was a child. But ever since his little sister went to the Spirit Vein Mountain and received the guidance of his master, the evil emperor, Wang Chong had no idea what level she had reached. In the War of the Southwest, his little sister had been avoiding him from the very start, so it had been a very long time since Wang Chong had seen her fight. But Wang Chong had never imagined that his little sister's strength had already reached this level. Not even a full-strength blow from his woozy steel sword could destroy the scales on the body of that massive monster, but his little sister was riding on its neck and using her bare hands, she was able to rip off its scales. Li Sai, think of a way to hold him down. I'll be right there. With no time to think, Wang Chong once more unsheathed his woozy steel sword and gripped it with both hands. Boom! With a heaven-shaking boom and the clear cry of a dragon, Wang Chong rose from the ground, the woozy steel sword drawing a massive arc in the air as it slashed down from the heavens. Boom! A violet flame spread from Wang Chong's woozy steel sword. At almost the same moment, the 7-meter-tall Lu Wu was forced back into the ground by Wang Chong's slash. Roar! In an explosion of energy, Lu Wu's eyes blazed with bloody light. His two arms, thick as men's thighs, came together and slapped at Wang Chong. If this palm were to land, even steel would be turned into fried dough, twists and rocks would be shattered, not to mention a human's body of flesh and blood. But before Lu Wu's hands could strike, clang! A heavy sword as tall as a man slashed at Lu Wu's arm. Lu Wu screamed in pain as his massive arm swayed and was slapped off by Li Sai. Boom! Li Sai turned around and slashed at Lu Wu's left hand. Just as Lu Wu's left hand was about to strike Wang Chong, Li Sai swiftly slapped Lu Wu's left hand off. These two attacks were extremely fast and perfectly coordinated. The moment Li Sai blocked Lu Wu's attack, Wang Chong thrust 2 fingers into the black scales that Wang Xiaoyao had pulled off. Wang Xiaoyao tore off these fine scales, but at the same time, she left behind bloody wounds. Little Yin-Yang Art. With 2 fingers in Lu Wu's neck, Wang Chong instantly activated the world's #1 evil art, the Little Yin-Yang Art. The little yin-yang art originally required the little yin-yang sword to be used, and it could only be used when the opponent was heavily injured or on the verge of death. However, with Wang Chang's mastery of the little yin-yang art reaching its peak, Wang Chong realized that this art had undergone a qualitative transformation. From a certain perspective, the consummate little yin-yang art already possessed a portion of the power of the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Right now, even without the little yin-yang sword, Wang Chong could absorb the energy of his opponent when they were not heavily injured or on the verge of death. This was the true face of the world's #1 evil art. But Wang Chong's cultivation was still too shallow, so he could not do what the evil emperor had done, instantly absorbing his opponent's energy and turning them into desiccated corpses. But even so, it was enough for Wang Chong. Boom! An icy and tyrannical energy, as mellow and thick as a burning knife, surged from Lu Wu's body into Wang Chong's, instantly dispersing into Wang Chong's meridians. In a flash, Wang Chong felt like he had been plunged into an icehouse, his meridians, blood, and energy freezing. However, the strangest thing was that within this piercingly cold and domineering cold energy, there was also a volcanic magma-like scorching energy. These two energies, one hot and one cold, one in reverse, made Wang Chong feel like his body was being torn apart. This was something Wang Chong had never experienced before. In all his battles, Wang Chong had never encountered such a strange and unique energy. Just what sort of monster is this? Wang Chong's entire body shivered. Not even an expert of the great general level could possess such a complex stellar energy, but Wang Chong had encountered it in this monster. But Wang Chong quickly experienced the benefits of this strange energy. A majestic energy brimming with vitality suddenly surged through his body. Wang Chong's stellar energy had already been greatly consumed, but at this moment, it was not only replenished, but even the injuries from the violet flames were healed. Even his flesh and cells were brimming with vitality. In all his life, Wang Chong had never encountered such a unique energy. Bang! In a flash of light and a howling wind, two massive shadows swung at Wang Chong. Boom! Wang Chong's eyes flashed, and his body shot up from Lu Wu's head, barely dodging Lu Wu's attack. Awoo! Lu Wu's eyes blazed with killing intent as he watched Wang Chong shoot up. Raising his head, he exerted strength in his legs and shot into the air in pursuit of Wang Chong. However, before he could fly up, two iron fists grabbed at him like lightning, grabbing both of his ankles. With a ruthless fling of both hands, he was flung down. Get down here for me! Li Sai's furious roar resounded through the world. Being repeatedly suppressed by Lu Wu had provoked the rage of this proud and violent invincible great general. His fists were burning with raging purple flames, and his stellar energy was incessantly burning. Even the clothes on his chest were burned, revealing his bulging muscles and steel-like chest. However, Li Sai didn't care at all. Boom! Leaping forward, Li Sai's eyes spat fire as he lunged at Lu Wu like an enraged beast, punching him again and again as they engaged in a fierce battle. On the other end, Wang Chong lightly stepped on a nearby wall and shot back with his sword. His two fingers stabbed into Lu Wu's neck as he activated the little yin-yang art. That cold, biting, and tyrannical energy once more surged into Wang Chong's body. Wang Chong's strength rapidly increased, and in a few short moments, he had returned to his peak level. In contrast, on the ground, Lu Wu's energy had been soaring, but after Wang Chong used the little yin-yang art, his energy began to flicker like a candle in the wind. Chapter 668. Damn it! Just what sort of technique did this brat learn that he can even absorb Lu Wu's energy? Outside the Wang clan residence, on a roof in the northwest corner, the leader of the black-robed men wearing the demon mask stood up with a wave of his sleeve. His teeth were clenched as he viciously glared at Wang Chong. Leader, we haven't received any information about the target's ability. It should be a hidden ability. A voice came from the side, belonging to a black-robed man who appeared to be a servant, a respectful expression on his face. Peng, before he could finish speaking, an enormous force slammed into his body, fiercely knocking this black-robed man 60 meters away. What hidden ability? It's clearly a lack of investigation. There was no information on the target at all. The black-robed leader's eyes seemed to spit fire, his face brimming with hatred. This was not Lu Wu's first time on the job. He had existed for more than 100 years and had dealt with even more formidable opponents. Moreover, there was no need for him to waste so much time. As long as Lu Wu appeared, the target would be smoothly eliminated, and all that was left was to clean up the mess. But this time, Lu Wu had also been the one to act, but from the start until now, everything had gone smoothly, and the target had never been able to absorb Lu Wu's energy. No one could endure Lu Wu's energy. In past experiments, all those who came into contact with this energy had died without exception. But now, someone was able to openly steal Lu Wu's strength in front of them, without the aid of any ritual tool. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have never dared to imagine it. Leader, should we send someone in and work with Lu Wu to kill him? Another black-robed man probed. Are you muddle-headed? Lu Wu doesn't differentiate between friend and foe. Once he starts killing, he won't let anyone go. How can we work with him? The latter immediately fell silent. There's nothing we can do right now except maintain the boundary. In addition, the target can steal Lu Wu's energy. We must immediately report this to our superiors, the black-robed leader sternly said. The black-robed leader sternly said. In addition, form a spell to stabilize the formation and prepare to activate Lu Wu's energy. No matter what, we must kill the target as quickly as possible. But leader, this will harm Lu Wu and reduce his lifespan. I'm afraid that Milord won't be satisfied. This isn't something you should worry about. All of you should know how powerful Lu Wu is. If the target absorbs a large amount of Lu Wu's energy, only the heavens know what will happen. If the mission failed, who could bear the consequences? Do you want us all to die here? The surroundings quickly fell silent, and no one objected to the black-robed leader's words. From all directions, strange hand seals with billowing black smoke quickly disappeared into the black shield of light that enveloped the Wang family's residence. Within the Wang clan residence, the battle between Wang Chong, Li Sai, and Wang Xiaoyao with Lu Wu had reached its most intense stage. Thick smoke was rising, and the shockwaves of their battle sent stone and wood splinters flying in every direction. The broken stones and wood shavings flew towards the surrounding walls, creating finger-sized holes on them. Ah! Cries of alarm came from the distance. All the maids, servants, and maids paled at this sight, their bodies trembling in fear. The Wang clan was a clan of ministers and generals, and it was patrolled by the imperial army. It was absolutely safe in the capital. No one had ever imagined that this sort of thing would happen. Almost half of the Wang clan residents had been destroyed by that humanoid monster. It was a scene of devastation and ruins everywhere. What's going on here? Why haven't the imperial army arrived after such a major event? Several dozen zhang away, next to a ruined fake mountain in a garden, Wang Chang's mother, Madame Wang, stared at the scene, her face ghastly pale and her voice fraught with worry. Madam, the steward has already sent people to call them, but for some reason, they still haven't returned. A maid bit her lip, her face pale, and even her voice trembling. Take some more people with you. You have to think of a way to call the imperial army over. Madame Wang said. Wang Chong and Wang Xiaoyao were both extremely powerful, but in the current situation, Li Sai and Wang Chong were clearly on the receiving end. Even someone like Madame Wang, who didn't know martial arts, could sense that Wang Chong's defeat was only a matter of time. Little sister, control his legs. Li Sai, pay attention to his hands. Do everything you can to control him. Don't let him attack me and little sister. Little Yin Yang art. Wang Chong was constantly working with Li Sai and Wang Xiaoyao, the three of them working together to control Lu Wu. Wang Chong could already sense that the little Yin Yang art was crucial to dealing with this monster. As long as he could absorb its energy, the monster's strength would be constantly suppressed. But this was far from enough. This monster's strength was extremely unique. As time passed, its strength would continue to increase. Not even the little yin-yang art could stop this trend. No. If this continues, we'll all be exhausted to death. Wang Chong suddenly said. In the War of the Southwest, he had killed more than 10,000 Mengshi, Yusang soldiers, but when faced with this black-scaled monster, Wang Chong was like a child dragging a massive beast. He felt like he could break free at any moment and completely lose control. Moreover, the violet flames of this monster were still a massive threat. Wang Chong could use the little yin-yang art to replenish his energy, and his little sister had been born with extraordinary physical strength, so stellar energy wouldn't be much of a problem for her. But Li Sai was on the verge of collapse. The violet flames had already consumed more than half of his energy, and it seemed like he wouldn't be able to last much longer. If this continued, with one less Li Sai, everyone else would die. Young master, you should leave. I'll hold him off for a while so madam and the others can retreat. We can't deal with this monster with just our strength. We must call the experts of the Imperial Army and work together to deal with him. Li Sai said. His chest was heaving, and his body was covered in sweat. It seemed like he had consumed an enormous amount of energy. No. You take my little sister and leave. I'll hold him off. Before Wang Chong could finish speaking, he heard an indignant and childish voice at his ear. If you want to leave, you can leave. I'm not leaving. I don't believe that I'll lose to him. Wang Xiaoyao had a stubborn expression on her face, her puffed-up face giving Wang Chong and Li Sai a headache. Wang Xiaoyao was no longer the same as she had been in the past. Not even Wang Chong or Li Sai could change her stubbornness. At any other time, this would have been fine, but at a time like this, it was fatal. Li Sai said nothing, only glanced at Wang Chong in between battles. This little sister of the Wang clan was unruly and willful, and she had an extremely high status. Crucially, she was also very strong. Not even Li Sai had the right to order her around. In this aspect, he could only rely on Wang Chong. Little sister, don't make trouble. Wang Chong deeply furrowed his brow. None of your business. Wang Xiaoyao's mind hardened, and she charged forward to engage Lu Wu in fierce battle. Waves of energy soared into the sky, and the dust shrouding the Wang clan residence grew thicker and thicker. Bang! Wang Xiaoyao left quickly and returned just as quickly. With a boom, a black silhouette flew out of the roiling dust and crashed into the ground, sending shards of stone and wood flying. Roar! After sending Wang Xiaoyao flying with a punch, Lu Wu roared and lunged at Wang Chong, his scarlet eyes striking in the darkness. Something's wrong. As he stared at those scarlet eyes, a thought flashed through Wang Chong's mind, and it became clearer and clearer. This monster was definitely coming for him. Of the three of them, he was the one being pursued the most. This made Wang Chong feel like he was prey. But this was not the most important thing. When Wang Chong heard Lu Wu's roar, a thought quickly became clear. From the start of the battle until now, other than the words kill, and kill everyone, Wang Chong had not heard the monster say anything else. This was not the reaction of an intelligent being. And when he looked into the monster's eyes, Wang Chong could only sense endless madness and chaos. If there's only madness and chaos, then it won't be able to distinguish friend from foe. Lil, Sis and Li Sai would always be his targets. He definitely wouldn't just attack me like now. At the very least, his main target would be me. This is definitely not something a crazed monster can do. Wang Chong's gaze swept the area. At first glance, everything seemed normal, but a moment later, Wang Chong's heart thumped as he realized that something was wrong. The capital was at the foot of the Sun of Heaven, and it was home to nearly 1 million people. Although it was late at night and many shops were closed, there was still no lack of businesses that stayed open late into the night. Moreover, even in the depths of the night, there were still quite a few wealthy merchants in the vicinity of the Wang clan residence, their homes lit with lanterns or hanging from their eaves. But as far as Wang Chang's eyes could see, it was pitch black. Other than the lights within the Wang clan residence, Wang Chong couldn't see the slightest bit of light outside. It was pitch black outside. Moreover, after fighting for so long, despite all the activity within the Wang clan residence, there was not the slightest sign of activity outside, not even the barking of a dog. Something's wrong. This isn't normal. Wang Chang's brow rose in understanding. Roar! A shadow lunged at him from behind. Wang Chang's body bounced, and he immediately flew back, dodging the attack by a hair's breadth. But the fake mountain beneath him was not so lucky. Boom! The fake mountain, which was as tall as two people, was crushed into powder by an invisible force. Not even dregs were left. It was as if it had evaporated. All Wang clan guards, listen up. Immediately leave and check the surroundings. If you find anyone suspicious, stop them. Wang Chong landed on a twisted plum tree, his voice rising by a notch. Chapter 669. Yes, young master. Didn't you hear? Go. The group of guards immediately flew away. Madam, young master, it's bad. Not long after the guards dispersed, a panicked shout came from the direction of the Wang family's main gate. A butler dressed in brown, who had gone out to seek reinforcements under Madame Wang's orders, ran over in panic with a group of maids and servants. As he ran, he shouted, "What are you waiting for? The gate has been blocked by something. The maids and I have tried everything we can, but we can't get out. Can't we even climb over the wall?" A yellow-robed personal maid next to Madame Wang anxiously asked. "It's useless. We tried, but we couldn't climb over the wall because of something. Big Sister Zhang's face is covered in blood," another pretty maid behind the butler said. The other pretty maid behind the housekeeper said. Her face was pale, and it seemed that she had suffered quite a bit of shock. Buzz. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was interested. The distant Wang clan maid was still confused, but Wang Chang's heart began to thump and sink. Wang Chong had only been guessing before, but he was now certain that besides this monster, there were many other people who had come to this ambush. Moreover, these people were here for him. Sword Pavilion, the black-robed men, a thought flitted through Wang Chang's mind. He suddenly understood, and his face turned extremely unsightly. After the victory in the southwest, Wang Chong had become a thorn in the side of Uzun, Mengshi Zhao, the Turks, Goguryeo, and the other foreign countries, a target that they had to eliminate as soon as possible. But whether it was Uzun, Mengshi Zhao, or the other foreign countries, their ambushes and assassinations were not beyond the realm of normal humans. Bows, spears, formidable martial arts experts, these were all within the realm of normal. However, the scene playing out in the Wang family mansion had already surpassed the scope of normal martial arts. Whether it was the giant bell that had suddenly fallen from the sky during the day, or the humanoid monster that had suddenly appeared in the home and was massacring everyone, or the strange purple flame energy, or the unknown power that had enveloped the entire Wang family, none of these were normal martial arts methods. In Wang Chang's impression, only the black-robed men who had raped and murdered the wife and daughter of Mengshi Zhao's Lord Jelifeng, the black-robed men who had pursued Jiannan Governor Zhang Wentua, and the mysterious Black Arrow were capable of such a feat. These bastards are truly audacious. Now that he understood the situation, Wang Chong clenched his fists, his expression instantly turning furious. The capital was under the sun of heaven's feet, with hundreds of thousands of imperial guards. It was also where the Holy Emperor presided, and the Wang clan was a clan of ministers and generals, an important minister of the Tang dynasty. This chaotic group of people actually dared to openly launch an attack in the capital, intending to destroy a noble clan of the Tang dynasty. This was no longer something that could be described as audacious, but completely lawless. There were no laws or rules of the secular world that could restrain them. As these thoughts flew through his mind, Wang Chong quickly regained his composure. Anger could not solve any problem. Now that he knew that this monster had accomplices, the urgent task at hand was to resolve this problem as quickly as possible. The battle has been going on, but there hasn't been any activity outside. The steward also said that something is blocking the outside. This means that these people are using some sort of special formation. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. The forms of martial arts were ever-changing. His father and Xianyu Zhongtong could gather the strength of everyone and transform into terrifying weapons of war like the mighty miracle god and the Vajra god. And this was only one form of martial arts and internal energy. Wang Chong knew that there were some formations that could form a boundary, but they were not like the black-robed men's boundary, which was so large and powerful that it could envelop the entire estate. If all sounds could not be transmitted, all the scenes would be obscured. No, it was impossible for all the scenes to be obscured. The energy shrouding the Wang clan residents might be able to greatly obscure the vision of those outside, but it could not be completely obscured. If the master of a mad dog could not see its target, it would be impossible for it to madly bite its target. The walls. Wang Chong hurriedly glanced at the surrounding high walls and suddenly understood. The residences of ministers and generals all had high walls, both to protect themselves and to prevent outsiders from spying on them. But at a time like this, they were the best helpers for those people to block the vision of outsiders. In other words, in the middle of the night, as long as the patrolling night watchmen, city guards, and imperial army soldiers did not notice, no one would notice. Even if the Wang clan residence was razed to the ground, no one would notice before daybreak. In other words, your positions are very easy to find. A cold and harsh light flashed through Wang Chong's eyes. Boom! His body shot forward as he pushed the phantom movement technique to its limits, instantly dodging Lu Wu's destructive blow. A moment later, Wang Chong had an idea. Wei Guo, Wei Wu, quickly take some men and build walls in the northwest, northeast, southeast, and southwest corners to be 3 zhang high. If you don't have anything suitable, then use cloth. Start from the corner and extend to the sides, at least 10 zhang. Wang Chong suddenly said. Yes, young master. In the distance, 2 tall silhouettes responded and immediately led the group of guards to fly away. The Wang clan didn't have many other things, but they were bestowed with all kinds of silk, satin, and cloth. They had everything one could wish for. This was a common situation among the clans of ministers and generals in the capital. Swish swish swish. In just a short while, the high walls at the 4 corners of the Wang clan's mansion were immediately erected with cloth walls. On the perimeter of the Wang clan residence, a group of black-robed men had been so focused on Wang Chong that they didn't even notice what the guards were doing. But when their vision darkened, cloth began to rise from the walls, blocking their line of sight. The black-robed men instantly fell into an uproar, their faces paling. Not good. Foul brat, we've been tricked. This fellow discovered us. Leader, we've lost contact with Lu Wu. No one had expected such an abrupt turn of events. For the first time in their operation, they suddenly felt like they had been outmaneuvered by their target. Too smart, too quick to react. Even now, they still didn't know how he had discovered them. Moreover, all the cloth had precisely blocked their line of sight, allowing them to spy on the Wang clan residence and command Lu Wu's position. This is troublesome. In order to prevent outsiders from spying on us, we surrounded the entire Wang clan residence and even the walls. Now that he's inside with the cloth blocking our line of sight, there's nothing we can do. Another black-robed man who seemed to have some status stood up, his brow deeply creased, his expression troubled. They had made a cocoon of their own making. They knew that their target would be difficult to deal with, but they hadn't expected him to be this formidable. In just a few moments, many twists and turns had occurred. This was only the beginning, but so many problems had already arisen. He suddenly understood why he had failed so many times in his previous operations against the target. This was definitely the most difficult target to deal with. What do we do? The black-robed man subconsciously turned to the demon-masked leader. Wang Chang's actions had basically caused Lu Wu to lose control. This was already outside of the plan. As expected, this target was rather unique, definitely one of the most difficult to deal with. In the current situation, they could either remove the black shroud over the Wang clan residence, but this would play right into the target's hands. There was an extremely high chance that the target would escape or attract the attention of the Imperial Army. But if they didn't do this, they wouldn't be able to deal with the target. In truth, the best method was to command Lu Wu to tear apart the cloth on the walls. Crucially, they didn't even know where Lu Wu was or which direction he was facing. Rumble. Dust billowed, and a cloud of dust rose from under the cloth into the sky. Although they couldn't see or hear anything, just by looking at the rising dust, everyone could guess that after this wave of action, that brat was definitely carrying out some kind of operation. And it was definitely something that would make them all uneasy. Damn it! The black-robed leader's entire body emitted cracking sounds. This operation had not gone smoothly at all. He hadn't expected so many things to happen to Lu Wu. Don't worry about him. Lu Wu will be fine for a while. And no one can kill Lu Wu. A long night is fraught with dreams. Hurry up and activate Lu Wu's abilities as quickly as possible to kill off all the Wang clan members. As for the loss of Lu Wu's lifespan, if the higher-ups ask, I will take responsibility. The leader of the black-robed men gritted his teeth as he said the last sentence. Yes. The crowd roared in response. In the next moment, everyone got busy. One after another, ancient, mysterious, and extremely powerful magic arts were sent into the formation. At some point, the black shroud over the Wang clan residence was beginning to take on a faint red hue. Strange talismans suffused with the aura of time began to flicker in and out of existence. But for the time being, no one had noticed anything. Roar! Within the Wang clan residence, Wang Chang's plan was reaching its most crucial point. In the midst of a few crooked plum trees that were swaying left and right, a piece of cloth wrapped around this place like a rainbow. And in the middle of this curtain of cloth, Wang Chang's thumb was stabbed into the neck of Lu Wu. Below him, Lu Wu had gone completely berserk like an uncontrollable beast. Wang Chang's judgment was correct. Once the walls of the Wang clan residence were covered with cloth, Lu Wu no longer focused on Wang Chong. Li Sai and Wang Xiaoyao had both become his targets. Most importantly, a monster that had lost its mind and had no specific target was far easier to deal with than a monster that was under control. Li Sai, move to the can position. Little sister, it's your turn. Attack his eyes. As long as you attack his eyes, he'll lock onto you. Keep rotating so that the monster doesn't know what to do. Wang Chong hovered over Lu Wu's head as he issued a string of orders. Now that he had found Lu Wu's weakness, it was much easier to deal with this sort of invulnerable, monstrous strength, blazing with violet flames, and yet lacking in intelligence and reason. All he could do was sink into madness and slaughter. Chapter 670. Although Lu Wu possessed boundless strength, his every move capable of shattering mountains, at this moment, he was being toyed around in the palms of Wang Chong, Li Sai, and the Wang clan's little sister. Just choosing a target was enough to make Lu Wu waver, the vast majority of his energy wasted on this indecision. Ha, fun, really fun. Wang Xiaoyao roared with laughter, completely immersed in this game of toying with Lu Wu. As for Lu Wu's dangerous violet flames, they had little effect on a monster like her, who had always relied on her own divine power to win. Buzz! An endless stream of cold and tyrannical energy surged out of Lu Wu's body and poured into Wang Chong's body. Lu Wu roared, but every time his fists struck at Wang Chong, Li Sai would knock them down. As the energy in Lu Wu's body continued to decrease, the energy in Wang Chong's body continued to increase. In the end, not only did he break through his original cultivation level, he began to advance step by step toward Tier 2 and 3 of the Imperial Martial Realm. Most importantly, Wang Chang's berserker syndrome in the southwest had killed more than 10,000 people, but his strength had been too fierce and his growth too rapid, inflicting a certain amount of damage on his meridians, bones, and blood vessels. This was something that could not be avoided when one's strength increased too rapidly. Thus, when Wang Chong meditated and cultivated, his pores would ooze blood. But now, Wang Chong could clearly sense that after absorbing the cold energy of this humanoid monster, all the cells in his body were brimming with vitality. This rich vitality was like the best medicine, healing and mending the wounds in Wang Chang's body. This was an unexpected harvest. Wonderful. A bright light flashed through Wang Chang's eyes, and his entire body was invigorated. As long as he maintained this state, he might be able to absorb all the strange energy in this monster's body. Although he didn't know where this energy had come from, there was one thing that Wang Chong could be sure of: this energy was extremely useful in suppressing the side effects of the berserker syndrome. Young master, be careful, this monster's scales can regenerate. Suddenly, Li Sai's eyes flitted over a small black dot on Lu Wu's neck. His eyes widened and he cried out. Don't panic, think of a way to suppress him first. Wang Chang's voice was incomparably calm, with a convincing force. His perception was even sharper than Li Sai's. Lu Wu's flesh was inconceivably tough. When Wang Chang's finger stabbed into Lu Wu's neck, he could already feel the layers of strength pushing his finger outward. Moreover, the hard and fine feeling that came from under his fingers was clearly the fine scales on his body. If it weren't for the fact that these scales were impervious to swords and spears and were so hard that even Wuzi's steel couldn't do anything to them and they grew very slowly, perhaps Wang Chang's little yin-yang technique would have been rendered useless by now. Little sister. In the next moment, Wang Chong spoke without the slightest hesitation. Swish. Wang Xiaoyao soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, another scale fell from Wang Xiaoyao's godly strength. Soon, that icy and chilling energy surged forth once more. Repeating this process, Wang Chang's plan gradually began to show results. Wang Chang's energy was getting stronger and stronger. In contrast, Lu Wu's energy, which had been constantly growing, began to stagnate under the effects of the little yin-yang technique, and his strength even began to decline. Swish! In a flash of light, Wang Chong pulled out the Wuzi steel dagger from his waist and thrust it forward. However, it only managed to insert a little bit before it got stuck. What a tough flesh! Wang Chong was also alarmed. After fighting for so long and encountering so many opponents, this was the only monster that not even the sharp Wuzi steel dagger could do anything to. Under the layer of fine scales, it didn't look like normal flesh and blood. Instead, it looked like thick steel bars. As far as Wang Chong could remember, he had never encountered such a strange opponent. The wound is still too small. I can't stab it in. As he looked at those tiny wounds, Wang Chang's mind began to run wild. Wang Chang's Wuzi steel dagger was thin enough, but it was still not enough. The 2-inch wide dagger was still too big for the tiny wounds on Lu Wu's neck. Even its ears have fine scales. As his gaze flitted past Lu Wu's ears, Wang Chong could clearly see that several large black scales had completely covered them. The black scales extended from his ears all the way into his ears. It was clearly not very practical to attack from here. I have to think of a way to kill him as quickly as possible. Otherwise, Li Sai won't be able to hold on much longer. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. Li Sai had not yet matured into the invincible great general he would become in the future. After fighting for so long, the stellar energy in his body had been burned away by the violet flames, and it was clear that he was barely holding on. Wang Chang's gaze quickly shifted to Lu Wu's eyes. These were Lu Wu's greatest weakness, and if he wanted to kill this monster, his eyes were the best place to start. But when Wang Chang's gaze fell on Lu Wu's eyes, he instantly paled. Lu Wu's scarlet eyes were now blazing with a bloody light, so bright that blood was dripping from them. His entire eye sockets were red, brimming with endless violence and a desire to destroy. At the same time, Wang Chong heard the rapid sound of bones growing. Cack-lack. Lu Wu, who was already 7 meters tall, seemed to be driven by some invisible energy, and his already massive body began to swell. Not only that, many keratinized objects, as hard as steel, began to grow out of his massive body. Lu Wu's human form was also completely transformed by the growth of these keratinized things, a frightening transformation. Not good. Li Sai, little sister, get out of the way. An intense sense of danger welled up in Wang Chang's heart, and he immediately shot backward. The moment he shot forward, a massive horned hammer whistled through the air and smashed into his neck. Although the hammer had struck empty air, the enormous force caused the earth to shudder. A massive roar soared into the sky, and with Lu Wu at the center, a destructive violet stellar energy swept across the battlefield. Hong hong hong, wherever the purple flame gang chi passed, all of the plum blossom trees were razed to the ground. Even the cloth used to block one's line of sight was burned to ashes by the purple flames. Ah! Wang Xiaoyao gasped as she was sent flying by the edge of the violet stellar energy. On the other side, Li Sai grunted as he was struck by the edge of the wave. Boom! He crashed into a ruined wall, and his face instantly turned as white as paper. Too powerful. The two of them rejoiced. If not for Wang Chang's timely warning, they would have been struck head-on, and their injuries wouldn't have been so minor. What's that? Wang Xiaoyao suddenly screamed in fear. After being sent flying, she crawled up from the ground and saw the scene behind her. Her eyes went wide, and her face contorted in fear. The plum tree forest was now covered in thick smoke. The 7-meter-tall Lu Wu had vanished, replaced by a massive monster, its body covered in jagged and sharp horns. At the same time, it had a long horn-like tail. This monster had 4 claws on the ground and its eyes were scarlet. Just by standing there, it was 3 meters tall, and its length, if one included its tail, it was more than 5 meters long. Anyone who stood in front of this monster would feel a great fear. Although Wang Xiaoyao possessed peerless strength, she was still just a little girl of 8 or 9. When she saw this nightmarish monster, she couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear. A human turning into a monster, just what is this thing? At this moment, the only person who was still clear-headed was Wang Chong. He had personally witnessed all the changes that had taken place during the monster's birth. Just a moment ago, he was still a 7-meter-tall humanoid monster, but in the next moment, his body expanded, and he turned into this terrifying monster that didn't look human. This was also the first time in Wang Chang's life that he had seen a living person transform into a true monster. This had already surpassed Wang Chang's understanding of the martial path, and it was impossible to use common sense to explain it. Roar! The massive monster opened its mouth and suddenly spat out a thick pillar of violet fire at Li Sai Tensum Zhang away. Boom! The roiling flames set even the earth ablaze. Li Sai leaped with all his might and dodged the flames by a hair's breadth. Boom! The earth quaked as Lu Wu's massive monster landed on all fours and leaped forward, suddenly lunging at Li Sai Tensum Zhang away. Not good. Li Sai paled. His internal energy had already been consumed by the violet flames, and he had no strength left to dodge the monster's attack. Just when it seemed like Li Sai was about to die under the monster's feet, a dragon's roar resounded through the air. In a flash of cold light, Li Sai, who was one with his sword, plummeted from the sky and slammed into the monster's head. Bang! Sparks flew, and a massive wave of energy exploded from the point of impact between Wang Chang's sword and the monster's head. Unsurprisingly, the monster-transformed Lu Wu's defense had become even more formidable, and Wang Chang's Wuzi steel sword was still unable to do anything to it. Beast, this way! Wang Chong shot away from the monster's head, his feet lightly tapping the ground as he shot into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he had vanished to the southwest. Behind him, the huge demonic beast roared and quickly chased after him. Boom! A few moments later, waves of energy exploded in all directions, and the earth to the southwest shook with a heaven-shaking boom. Under Wang Chang's guidance, the monster-transformed Lu Wu shot forward like a streak of light, crashing into the high walls of the southwest. The walls of the Wang clan that were several zhang high were torn apart like paper by Lu Wu's charge, and Lu Wu continued to ram his head against the black shroud. Chapter 671. What's that? How could there be something like that? No wonder we couldn't get out. But who wants to deal with our Wang clan? They're too bold. Everyone was shocked, and they were both shocked and angry. But for the black-robed men outside the walls, it was not as simple as shock. Bang bang bang. The black-robed men lost their footing, vomiting blood as they dropped from the roofs. Bastard! This foul brat is using Lu Wu to deal with us. On the roof, the black-robed men were both shocked and furious. The black shroud formed by the formation was powered by the stellar energy in their bodies. All of them were part of the formation. By using Lu Wu to crash into the shroud, Wang Chong was driving the tiger to swallow the wolf, indirectly using Lu Wu's strength to deal with them. If not for the fact that Wang Chong was still trapped in the shroud, all of them would have been infuriated to death. But this was far from the end. Rumble. In the blink of an eye, there was another massive boom. The monstrous Lu Wu, who had just vanished, had been lured back by Wang Chong and once more slammed into the black barrier of the formation. Ah! 5 or 6 black-robed men seemed to have been struck by lightning, vomiting blood as they dropped from the roofs. Lu Wu's strength was inconceivably vast, and no one could stop him. Thus, Wang Chong had never even thought about stopping him, only luring him over to deal with them. This was yet another situation that none of them had ever imagined. Leader, if this continues, it might turn into a battle between us and Lu Wu. Before that brat dies, all of us will die. Can you control Lu Wu so that he doesn't crash into our barrier? One of the black-robed leaders stood up and anxiously turned to look at the black-robed leader on the other roof. No. That brat is too crafty. The black-robed leader clenched his teeth, his expression more furious than anyone else's. He's been controlling where and when Lu Wu will appear. By the time I want to control him, Lu Wu is already gone. There's too little time, not enough. Damn bastard. Controlling Lu Wu required time, a very short amount of time. In normal circumstances, this would not be a problem, but after Lu Wu transformed, his strength and speed had greatly increased, and when Wang Chong wanted to control him, he simply did not have enough time to do so. Moreover, the place where Wang Chong had lured Lu Wu to appear was constantly changing, making it impossible to predict. By the time he noticed, it was already too late. The most hateful thing was that Wang Chong was still instructing the guards of the Wang family to cover the gap with large pieces of cloth, so that their vision was always limited. I'll kill him. The leader of the black-robed men gritted his teeth, a sense of powerlessness that he had never felt before surged in his heart. Lu Wu's attacks had always resulted in death, and this situation had never happened before. He had an indescribable feeling. It was like Lu Wu had become that boy's, and his group had become Lu Wu's target. Boom! Just as he was deep in thought, the black light barrier trembled, and another deafening sound rang out. On the roof, several more black-robed men vomited blood and dropped to the ground. After losing several batches of black-robed men, the power of the formation grew weaker and weaker, and even the black light barrier dimmed. Compared to the beginning, the light barrier now clearly showed signs of dimming. Leader, what do we do? Everyone was getting more and more anxious. Wait a little longer. Once Lu Wu transforms, he'll get stronger and faster. I don't believe that he can keep it under control forever. The leader of the black-robed men was even more anxious than the others, but his voice did not betray any of this. At this stage of the battle, they had no other choice. Once they opened the barrier and allowed their target to escape, all their previous efforts would have been for naught. In comparison, If Lu Wu could kill his target, the deaths of these people would be insignificant. At this moment, no one within the walls knew that Wang Chang's situation was far more dangerous than they had imagined. Awu! Lu Wu bellowed, unleashing a torrent of violet flames at Wang Chong. The slightest contact with these flames would result in the melting of one's bones and blood. Along with the torrent of violet flames was the long horn hammer at the end of Lu Wu's tail. Boom boom boom. Each blow of Lu Wu's horn hammer was incredibly heavy, and when it struck the ground, it would leave behind a large hole in the ground. Under the assault of Lu Wu's violet flames, tail, and sharp claws, Wang Chong was constantly dodging and fleeing. Countless times, Lu Wu's violet flames and tail shot past Wang Chong's feet, and there were many times when Wang Chong was almost struck by Lu Wu. This was like dancing on a tightrope. Death followed him like a shadow, and the slightest carelessness would result in death. Boom boom boom. Under Wang Chong's guidance, Lu Wu smashed into the black shroud again and again. In the eyes of outsiders, Wang Chong seemed to be able to lift this heavy burden effortlessly, but only Wang Chong himself knew how dangerous it was. Everyone, scatter. Don't get close. Wei Guo, Wei Wu, quickly use silk to cover the gap. In addition, have everyone else stay away. Wang Chong's voice resounded over the Wang clan residence. Shen Hai and Meng Long had already been dispatched by Wang Chong to Jiaozhi to protect Zhang Munian. The current leaders of the Wang clan guards were Wei Guo and Wei Wu. Third brother, I'll help you. Wang Xiaoyao ran all the way here. Little sister, don't. Hurry and leave. Wang Chong paled in fright. His little sister had always had a rash personality, but now was not the time to be willful. This monster's strength had increased by several times, and not even Wang Chong dared to lightly touch it. But how could Wang Xiaoyao listen to Wang Chong? Just as she was about to run over, Xiaoyao, stop right there. A harsh voice came from behind her. Madame Wang's words caused Wang Xiaoyao's body to tremble, and she finally stopped. Boom boom boom. Lu Wu's speed was clearly increasing, and he was becoming more and more dangerous. But Wang Chong had no time to worry about that. No one in the Wang clan could deal with this monster, and luring it toward the black shroud was the only method. Once, twice, thrice. Wang Chong was in a perilous situation, and Lu Wu was also successfully smashing into the black shroud. The greater Lu Wu's strength, the greater the impact on the black-robed men outside the walls. Plush. The black-robed men vomited blood as they dropped from the roof. The force of Lu Wu's charge had been successfully transferred to them by Wang Chong. As he watched the corpses drop from the roof, the black-robed leader's complexion became even uglier than a corpse's. A simple late-night assassination, under Wang Chong's bait, had now become a bizarre race against time. The black shroud was the dividing line, with Wang Chong inside and the black-robed men outside as the participants on the outside. The one who could persist the longest would be the final victor. Boom boom boom. For a moment, both inside and outside the black shroud fell into a strange silence. All that was left was the black shroud shuddering in the dark night. Once, twice, thrice, after some time, there was a massive boom as the black shroud melted. Plush. The black-robed men vomited blood as they dropped from the roof. All the black-robed men turned ashen. They had spent so much time and paid such a heavy price, but in the end, Wang Chong had used Lu Wu to shatter their defenses. But this was not the end of it, leader, it's bad. The city guards and imperial army are on their way. A black-robed man exclaimed. The shattering of the black light barrier had caused a huge shockwave that had awakened many people. In an important place like the capital, the slightest disturbance would attract the attention of the city guards and imperial army, let alone such a loud noise. Woof woof woof, the sound of dogs barking could be heard in the dark night. Near and far, the lights of the houses were lit up. The families heard the commotion and got up from their beds in the dark. Who? Can't you let me sleep in the middle of the night? Why is there such a big commotion? Could something have happened? Hearing these voices, the black-robed leader's expression became extremely unsightly. As far as the eye could see, even the nearby area was lit up. Through the window, he could see figures moving about inside, as if someone was preparing to put on their clothes and come out to check. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before they were completely exposed. "Leader, what should we do?" An anxious urging voice rang in his ears again. Wait a little longer. I can already control Lu Wu." The black-robed leader gritted his teeth. "But we're running out of time. The city guards and imperial guards have already rushed over." A black-robed man said. No matter what, they could not attract too much attention in the capital. This was the most basic principle of their operations. If they were exposed, all of them would die. This was why when they assassinated someone, they had to be stealthy and even set up a black light barrier array formation barrier. There wasn't much time left. The black-robed man said nothing, his eyes shifting. He wanted to delay a little longer so that he could control Lu Wu to kill Wang Chong, but Wang Chong had clearly predicted this move. The moment the barrier disappeared, Wang Chong had already retreated back into the Wang family residence. Moreover, the entire Wang family residence had been covered in silks and satin, limiting one's vision. Killing Wang Chong was not something that could be accomplished in a short amount of time, at least not before the city guards and imperial army arrived. "Leader?" the black-robed man urged once more. "Damn it! Even if I can't kill that brat, I won't let the Wang family off easy." The black-robed leader clenched his teeth, his heart filled with unwillingness. Let Lu Wu raze the Wang family residence to the ground. After half an incense stick's worth of time, we'll have him burrow into the ground and leave. Everyone else, withdraw. Although he was extremely unwilling, the black-robed leader had no choice but to give the order to retreat. No matter what, concealment was always their number one principle. Swish. Chapter 672. These people have retreated. Wang Chong looked around him, a deep and gloomy look on his face. These people could use their eyes to control the monster, and Wang Chong had originally believed that they would use the monster to control him the moment the shroud broke. Thus, Wang Chong had ordered Wei Guo and Wei Wu to lay down many concealment silks and cloths in the residence. But to his surprise, the other side had managed to endure. These people are really cautious. They are not willing to leave any traces behind. Wang Chong quietly said to himself. He had already exchanged blows with these people several times, but even now, Wang Chong had not been able to touch the corner of their clothes, much less understand their background. They seemed to be extremely careful about concealing their identities and tracks, leaving no clues for outsiders to follow. "Young master. What do we do now?" A panicked voice came from the distance. Wei Guo stood on a wall, one hand gripping his bow and the other gripping an arrow. Across from him, the monstrous beast Lu Wu was madly charging at him. Although the black-robed men outside had retreated, the Wang clan's troubles were far from over. Lu Wu was currently unstoppable, and anyone who touched him would die. Moreover, the Wang clan was surrounded by residences. If this monster was allowed to escape, the consequences would be unthinkable. Wang Chong's brow was tightly creased as he scanned the entire Wang clan. There was no one left who could stop this monster. His little sister could not go forward, and Li Sai's condition was extremely worrisome. Anyone else would be burned to ash by the monster's violet flames. Wang Chong could only think of a way to delay, but this was not a long-term solution. Most frightening of all was that the longer he delayed, the stronger the monster would become. Once its speed reached a certain level, the walls of the Wang clan would not be able to hold it. "Chonger! Stand aside. Let me do it." Suddenly, an elderly but vigorous and domineering voice came from the sky, booming like a peal of thunder. "Who?" There was a flash of light, and a black-colored figure swept through the void like a large bird, landing in the Wang family residence. Before anyone could react, that person left behind an afterimage. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Lu Wu. Compared to Lu Wu's massive body, this person's body was thin and frail, but in Wang Chang's eyes, he was as imposing and lofty as a mountain. Master! Wang Chong was overjoyed. He recognized the black figure as his master, the evil emperor. Chong, stand back. Leave this beast to me. The evil emperor simply waved his hand lightly, giving off a strong sense of confidence. That frail figure just stood there casually, but in an instant, it gave people a feeling as if his feet had taken root, as if he had fused with the earth, and was boundlessly heavy. Roar! The behemoth roared. It seemed to sense the aura of the old man and suddenly turned around, its scarlet eyes glowing like two red lanterns in the darkness as it stared at the evil emperor. Boom! The thick claws of the monster stomped on the ground, and the 3-meter-tall monster panted. Exerting all its strength, it shot forward like a cannonball toward the weak and insignificant demonic emperor old man. Before the monster could even lunge forward, it opened its mouth, and a thick pillar of violet flames surged toward the evil emperor. Aya! Cries of alarm came from all around, and even the distant Wang Chong couldn't help but feel his heart leap into his throat. If the violet flames that Lu Wu had spewed at the start were only capable of burning a person's energy, then not even Wang Chong dared to recklessly touch this dangerous pillar of violet flames. Boom! Before Wang Chong could warn him, the massive pillar of violet flames had already crashed into the body of the evil emperor. Master! Wang Chong and Wang Xiaoyao both tensed up and shouted at the same time. But a moment later, everyone was stunned by what they saw. That majestic and destructive pillar of violet flames crashed into the body of the evil emperor like a waterfall crashing into a rocky mountain. It was instantly stopped by an invisible energy and cut into thousands of pieces. For the first time, the invincible violet flames of Lu Wu's demonic transformation were rendered useless before the evil emperor. Beast! You still dare to act so impudently in front of me? While his voice was still echoing over the Wang clan residence, the evil emperor had already extended a palm into the violet flames and grabbed one of Lu Wu's feet. Rumble! Dust roiled and the earth seemed to be on the verge of splitting apart. As everyone stared in shock, the massive demonic beast Lu Wu was thrown to the ground by the evil emperor, his 4 feet in the air and his vicious aura scattered. Mas, Fu, Wang Chong was dumbfounded, and the Wang family's little sister was also standing not too far away from Madame Wang. Her eyes were wide open, and her jaw was about to drop to the ground. She had never seen the evil emperor fight, but Wang Chong was a little better off. He knew that although his master, the evil emperor, had lost all his martial arts, he was rapidly recovering and had even cultivated the formidable myriad spirit sea art. But not even Wang Chong knew that his master, the evil emperor, had reached this level of martial arts. Not only was he not afraid of the violet flames, he was even able to throw the demonic beast to the ground with a light palm. This is too inconceivable. The most shocked of all were the guards of the Wang clan. They had seen with their own eyes how terrifying this monster was, but to be knocked down by the evil emperor in a single exchange was nothing like it had been before. Everyone was dumbstruck by this sight. Awoo! The demonic beast Lu Wu howled and shook its head as it got up from the ground, intending to attack the evil emperor. But a moment later, a thin and withered hand suddenly reached out and pressed against Lu Wu's head. Boom! The massive Lu Wu seemed to be struck by a heavy blow, its 4 thick legs falling apart as it crashed to the ground, leaving behind a deep crater. The invulnerable Lu Wu howled in pain at the palm of the evil emperor. Chonger, remember, humans have thousands of acupoints, and so do beasts. Whether it's a man or a beast, no matter how formidable their martial arts are, no matter how tough and dense their scales are, it's impossible to conceal all the acupoints in their body, and each acupoint is a sea of energy. Wang Chang's eyes flashed with a solemn light. The evil emperor's powerful and domineering voice resounded in Wang Chang's ears, and the ferocity of the demonic beast was completely suppressed. The ferocious Lu Wu was just a docile kitten. And this is the essence of the myriad spirit sea art. You must learn to sense the acupuncture points of your opponent and not just rely on the sword in your hand. Only in this way can you become a true expert. The evil emperor's right hand pressed down, and the 3-meter-tall demonic beast Lu Wu was smashed into the ground, its energy completely scattered. In the distance, Li Sai was leaning against a broken wall, panting for breath. He had long since been stunned by this sight. This was the first time he had seen the evil emperor in action. He had personally experienced the power of that monster. Even the invincible Wu Zi's steel sword was useless against him. But this invulnerability was completely useless against the evil emperor. With a single move, the evil emperor had heavily injured the demonic beast. Impossible, Li Sai was completely dumbfounded. He had been to the Spirit Vein Mountain more than once, and he had also seen the evil emperor. At the time, he had thought that this old man was weak and frail, not much of a threat. It was only at this moment that Li Sai realized that he had misjudged. He had never imagined that this ordinary-looking old man on the Spirit Vein Mountain would be so terrifying. No, it wasn't just simply terrifying. Wang Cheng's shock was no less than Li Sai's, but he was still deep in thought. Spirit Sea, Wang Cheng muttered to himself, deep in thought. Whether it was the great yin-yang heaven creation art, the myriad spirit sea art, or the art of God and demon slayer, these were the 10 supreme arts of the world that Wang Cheng had never come into contact with before. And at his peak, the evil emperor was a legendary figure in terms of strength. If one were to say that after Wang Cheng became the war sage, there were only a handful of people who were qualified to guide him and be his master, then the evil emperor was definitely one of them. The spirit sea art was definitely one of the most supreme arts. Every martial artist had a spirit sea, but to be able to use it as a supreme art, his master's myriad spirit sea art was definitely the only one. This supreme art was grand and majestic, and it had completely transcended the boundaries of the evil path. It was an orthodox martial art. Moreover, Wang Cheng knew that his master, the evil emperor, was using this demonic beast to teach him. The black scales could cover one's vital points, but they could not cover one's chi acupoints, because chi acupoints were everywhere. Therefore, as long as one knew the location of one's opponent's chi acupoints, even if they were impervious to weapons, one could still attack them. This was clearly what his master was telling him. The myriad spirit sea art. I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Wang Cheng muttered to himself as he looked at his master, the evil emperor, in front of him. History had changed, and there could be no construction without destruction. The myriad spirit sea art had never appeared in the past several hundred years, so naturally, no one would have seen it before, much less know of its might. But there was no doubt that this was an extremely powerful supreme art. His master, the evil emperor, had only used a little bit of skill to subdue it. Awoo. Chapter 673. Not good. That scoundrel's trying to escape. Wang Cheng was also alarmed. In all his battles with Lu Wu, he had never known that this creature could burrow into the ground like a pangolin. Whoosh! Wang Cheng immediately charged in the direction that Lu Wu was burrowing into. But before he could take more than a few steps, Wang Cheng heard a vigorous voice at his ear. "Humph, do you think you can escape from me?" Rumble. The evil emperor stood with his back to Wang Cheng, his black robe flapping in the wind as he faced the cloud of dust and the fleeing Lu Wu. On the contrary, a chilling and tyrannical energy erupted from his body, causing the air in a radius of 30 zhang around him to distort. Bang! With a stomp of his foot, the earth began to sway like the deck of a ship in the middle of the ocean. The evil emperor's body suddenly began to exude a dazzling white light that could shake the heavens. All this white light condensed into a stream of light that flowed through the demonic emperor old man's right foot and surged into the depths of the earth. It was like a boulder had been thrown into a lake, causing the earth to quake and the sea to churn. Awoo! An agonized howl came from the depths of the earth. Even the servants and maids of the Wang clan, who did not know martial arts, had brightened their eyes, knowing that the behemoth had been heavily injured. "Come out for me." The evil emperor's cold and harsh voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was imbued with a pressure that resounded in everyone's ears. Rumble. Under everyone's gazes, a large area of the ground split open. It was as if an invisible hand the size of a mountain had drilled out from the depths of the earth. Kacha! In front of everyone's eyes, the earth cracked and bulged, quickly rising up to a height of 60 to 70 feet. And in the center of the cracked earth, a monster that was more than 30 feet tall, with a bumpy surface and keratinized skin appeared in front of everyone. Its acupoints shone with white light. Those milky white rays of light were like chains, drilling out of Lu Wu's acupoints and crisscrossing, locking down Lu Wu's entire body and making it impossible for him to move. "Chonger, it's your turn now." The evil emperor's pitch-black hair danced in the wind. His voice was cold and calm, and it was filled with a strange power. "Now, I will teach you the mnemonic of the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Reverse the universe, reverse the flow of blood, direct the flow of qi, reverse the flow of heroic qi. This monster's energy is extremely rich in vitality. This will be extremely beneficial to your cultivation of the great yin-yang heaven creation art and the berserker syndrome. Quick, go and absorb his energy." At the last sentence, the evil emperor's expression was unquestionable. Bang! With a flash of light, Wang Chong, who was already not far behind the evil emperor, leaped into the air without any hesitation. Bzzz. Head down and feet up, Wang Chong's thumb stabbed into a bloody wound on Lu Wu's body. This was a wound Lu Wu had sustained in his battle with the evil emperor. "This wound is too small. Let me help you out a little more." The evil emperor's calm and composed voice came from his ear. Swish! The thumb-sized wound suddenly tore open, expanding to the size of a fist. The massive Lu Wu howled in pain, faint violet blood gushing out. Now that the demonic emperor old man had taken control of its acupoints, its skin, which was even more formidable than its black scales, could only helplessly await death in the face of the myriad spirit sea art. Rumble. Visible streams of icy and chilling violet energy began to flow through Wang Chong's palm, condensing into a viscous liquid. Once Wang Chong reached the peak of the little yin-yang art, he could use the great yin-yang heaven creation art mantra that his master, the evil emperor, had taught him to reverse his blood energy, instantly unleashing an inconceivable amount of power. The frigid energy in Lu Wu's body madly surged into Wang Chong's body at a speed several dozen times faster than before. Awoo! Lu Wu's howls could be heard from very far away in the capital. It struggled with all its might, but under the effect of the evil emperor's energy sealing acupuncture points, its struggles were futile. Damn it, just who are these people? Can not even Lu Wu escape? How could this damn Wang clan be so powerful? Just how many more tricks do they have up their sleeves? The black-robed men, who had already fled far away, heard Lu Wu's screams in the darkness and felt their bodies turn cold. In its monster form, Lu Wu was invulnerable and inconceivably powerful. On the battlefield, a single Lu Wu could easily destroy an entire army of 10,000 soldiers. Moreover, Lu Wu could burrow into the ground, giving it an invincible position. But now, the black-robed men couldn't help but shiver at this thought. For a moment, they even wanted to turn around and run back to see just what sort of person was capable of trapping Lu Wu. But very quickly, reason stopped them from acting rashly. The imperial army and city guards were already on their way, the clopping of hooves echoing through the night sky. Whether they wanted to or not, they could not appear in that place again. In the Wang clan residence, Wang Chong stood upside down, the cold and frigid energy of Lu Wu surging into his body. Cack-lack. Too much cold energy had accumulated, and in a few seconds, layers of blue ice began to emerge from under Wang Chong's skin. And where Lu Wu had touched his wrist, a thick layer of blue ice began to spread from Wang Chong's arms to his entire body. In a flash, Wang Chong's face began to pale. His body even began to tremble from the cold. Lu Wu's energy was simply too high, far above Wang Chang's current level and beyond what he could endure. Focus the mind and calm the energy, become one with the mind. Return to the origin, past the orifice, gushing spring, chest center, startling rainbow, all in one. The great yin-yang heaven creation art has been passed down through the ages and possesses peerless power. In this world, there is no energy or stellar energy that cannot be absorbed. Just when Wang Chang's entire body was about to freeze, a voice rang out in his ear. The evil emperor's robes fluttered in the wind, his expression domineering and confident. As the wielder of the great yin-yang heaven creation art, the sect master, the number one figure of the evil path, the evil emperor naturally had the confidence and authority to speak these words. The sea can hold all rivers, and tolerance is great. In this world, there was no energy that the great yin-yang heaven creation art could not absorb. Wang Chong had been frozen because he had not yet grasped the essence of the world's number one evil art, so he had not been able to fully utilize its power. Buzz! The words of his master, the evil emperor, caused Wang Chong to suddenly realize what was going on. A moment later, a tyrannical stream of energy surged through these acupuncture points. With a massive boom, Wang Chong's body seemed to shatter like a frozen mountain. Thousands of ships began to rush through his body, and an enormous suction force began to emerge. The thick layer of blue ice wrapped around Wang Chong's body began to melt at a visible rate. Whoosh! A vast river of energy flowed through Wang Chong's meridians. After making a full cycle, it was like a dragon returning to the sea, gathering at his dantian. Wang Chong's energy swelled, rising from Tier 2 to Tier 3, all the way to Tier 4 and Tier 5. Lu Wu's energy was simply too powerful. To Wang Chong, this energy was extremely nourishing, equivalent to the energy of several top-class experts. Gallop! Gallop! The clopping of hooves came from outside, accompanied by the clamor of voices. But soon after, another wave of people arrived. The clattering of hooves came to a sudden halt in front of the gate of the Wang clan residence. We are the city guards. We heard the commotion and came to provide reinforcements. This is the Imperial Army. What's going on? Let us go in and take a look. A cacophony of voices could be heard. In the ruins, Li Sai's eyes flickered. His muscular right hand pushed against the rubble and rumbled as he stood up. Young master is currently cultivating and cannot be disturbed. In addition, the origins of this monster are too complicated. Until we get to the bottom of it, it's best not to let too many people know. As this thought flitted through Li Sai's mind, he quickly propped himself up and began to walk toward the gate of the Wang clan residence. As he walked, he gestured. On the other side, Wei Guo and Wei Wu had already ordered their men to cover up the gap in the collapsed walls of the Wang clan residence. At the same time, they had also sent men to stand guard. Too much had happened on this night. More than half of the Wang clan residence had been destroyed. What to do next would have to wait for Wang Chong to decide. The city guards and Imperial Army guards outside the gate were quickly replaced by Li Sai. In the residence, Wang Chong had reached a crucial moment in absorbing Lu Wu's energy. Wave after wave of energy was constantly nourishing Wang Chong's body, healing the hidden injuries he had sustained during the battle. Cack-lack. In just a few seconds, Wang Chong's energy had soared to Tier 7 of the Imperial Martial Realm, and a powerful energy began to explode from his body. Wang Chong was already beginning to show some of the majesty of his last life. Whoosh! As Wang Chong was concentrating on using Lu Wu's energy to cultivate the great yin-yang heaven creation art, a violet flame suddenly erupted from Lu Wu's body. This violet flame was extremely fierce and domineering, of the kind that was tinged with black. The enormous Lu Wu was instantly set ablaze from the inside out. Not good. Wang Chong was also alarmed. Icy energy surged out of his body, and he immediately tried to extinguish the flames on Lu Wu's body and freeze it. But it was too late. This flame was extremely fast and tyrannical. In the blink of an eye, this 3-meter-tall horned behemoth was burned to ash by the violet-black flames. All that was left was a large black scorch mark on its body. Damn it! Wang Chong leaped up and rolled to the side, his face grimacing as he stared at the place where Lu Wu had vanished. This monster was extremely strange. It could take human form and also beast form. This was not something that any human faction could do. Moreover, the level of energy in its body far exceeded that of an ordinary martial artist. This creature definitely harbored some enormous secret. If he could successfully capture it, he might be able to deduce the origins of those mysterious people. Chapter 674. Chonger, there's no need to worry too much. There's an energy core in his body, and all his energy comes from that core. From the moment you absorbed his energy, the energy core in his body lost balance and was destined to disappear. All of this was inevitable. The evil emperor waved his sleeve and placed his hands behind his back, his expression relaxed. His myriad spirit sea art was connected to every acupoint in Lu Wu's body, so none of Lu Wu's secrets could be hidden from him. Wang Chong might have been very disappointed, but the evil emperor had long ago predicted all of this. Chonga, what's going on here? Those who could control this kind of monster were not ordinary forces. Just how did you provoke such a formidable opponent? The evil emperor turned to Wang Chong said. Master, your disciple truly cannot answer this question. Wang Chong bitterly smiled. In truth, he wanted to know the answer more than anyone else. These men in black seemed to have appeared out of thin air. They did not exist in his memories, nor did they belong to any faction. Even now, Wang Chong had no idea where they came from, who they were, or what they wanted. All the information he had on them was a complete blank. The demonic emperor old man glanced at the nearby devastated Wang family residence and subconsciously furrowed his brow. It was clear that Wang Chong's answer was not the one he had been hoping for. That's right, Master, how did Venerable One manage to rush over at a time like this? Wang Chong said. After transforming into a monster, this monster's strength had soared, and not even the Wuzi steel sword had been able to do anything to him. If not for the evil emperor's timely arrival, Wang Chong truly didn't dare to believe that this monster would have wreaked so much havoc in the capital. At the very least, the ordinary people around the Wang clan residence would have suffered grievous casualties. Ha, don't forget that I was the one who taught you the little yin-yang art. I'm more sensitive to the energy of the little yin-yang art than any of you. When your aura suddenly disappeared from my perception, I already felt that something was wrong. The myriad chi seas are one with the world. Even though they are separated by dozens of miles, there is nothing that can hide from me. At that time, I knew that something had changed. The evil emperor said calmly. This was the first time he had taken the initiative to talk about his myriad spirit sea technique. Although it was only a glimpse, the evil emperor's casual display of it was already quite stunning. To be able to sense the movements in the distance from dozens of miles away, the power of this myriad spirit sea art had already surpassed the scope of normal martial arts. When Wang Chong heard his master's words, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. Although Wang Chong did not understand what his master meant when he said that the myriad of chi seas were in harmony with the heavens and the earth, there was one thing that he could be sure of. His master's power had really recovered. Even if it had not yet reached the level that could shock the world, it had definitely reached an extremely high level. Congratulations, Master, on recovering your divine power. Wang Chong said happily. Ha! It's still too early to talk about recovering my divine power. But I truly did recover a significant amount of my strength. I have to thank you for all of this. That spirit vein mountain is filled with dense spiritual energy, making it the best place to cultivate the myriad spirit sea art. If you had not brought me to that spirit vein, it would have taken me at least 5 more years to reach my current level. The evil emperor looked at his disciple with a gratified expression. He had spent his entire life scheming and scheming against each other, scheming against others, and even being schemed against by his own disciple. To be able to obtain a disciple like Wang Chong in his later years was the most gratifying thing that had ever happened to the evil emperor. Wang Chong had not only made a name for himself in the southwest and been bestowed the title of young marquis by the imperial court, he had also been extremely loyal and filial to the evil emperor. This was something that the evil emperor had never felt from any of his disciples before. Without destruction, there can be no construction. To the evil emperor, this was not just a matter of martial arts, but also a complete transformation of his personality and breadth of mind. At this point, if anyone dared to harm Wang Chong, the demonic emperor old man would have to travel to the ends of the earth to grind them to ashes and exterminate them. These two disciples of the Wang brothers, one big and one small, could be said to be his greatest hope in his later years. All of this is due to Master's own efforts. Your disciple is just the icing on the cake. Wang Chong sincerely said. To Wang Chong, he had only sought out the evil emperor for the great yin-yang heaven creation art. But now, Wang Chong had unwittingly begun to view the evil emperor as a family member, not just a simple master. Moreover, after experiencing so many changes, Wang Chong could sense that his master's entire personality had changed. From a demon of the evil path, he was slowly turning over a new leaf, becoming a calm and benevolent old man whose heart was as tolerant as the rivers and lakes. There's no need for you to be so humble in front of your master. The evil emperor smiled and shook his head. Other than investigating the truth, your master's main purpose in coming here is to pass on the great yin-yang heaven creation art to you. Your little yin-yang art is already close to perfection, so you should be able to cultivate this supreme art. This will also alleviate the rampaging blood in your body. But at this point, the evil emperor looked at Wang Chong and gave a deep sigh, a deep worry flitting across his brow. Even now, not even I know if passing on this supreme art to you is a good or bad thing. In the end, the great yin-yang heaven creation art is an evil art, an evil art. I have cultivated for more than half my life and have already suffered deeply from it. In the future, your menstrual blood will flow in reverse, and you will pay an enormous price. Master, there's no need to worry. This is all your disciple's own choice. I already know the consequences. Wang Chong gave an indifferent smile, not worried in the slightest. He knew what his master was thinking, but even if he could do it all over again, he would still choose the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Because he had a reason to do so. As for the others, he didn't care. The demonic emperor old man gave a long sigh. I have spent more than half my life trying to resolve the conflict with the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Right now, I can only hope that you can find the legendary supreme and infinite origin immortal art before your blood flows like lava and your internal energy suffers a backlash. The supreme and infinite origin immortal art was a fusion of yin and yang. If one could learn this legendary first of the 10 supreme arts of the world, the flaws of the great yin-yang heaven creation art would be completely removed. But even until now, no one knew where this legendary and unparalleled martial art was. This legendary supreme art had been lost in the long river of history for far, far too long. Master, internal energy backlash is a matter of the future. As long as it's not a matter of the present, why should I think too much about it? Wang Chong grinned. In contrast to his master, the evil emperor, Wang Chong maintained a relaxed and carefree attitude. It was as if what the evil emperor had said had happened to someone else and had nothing to do with him. The evil emperor shook his head and sighed, not wanting to say anything more. I have already passed the great yin-yang heaven creation art to you, so it's time for me to leave. If you need anything, come find me at the spirit vein. With a shake of his robe, the evil emperor left the Wang family residence. Wait a moment. Wang Chong suddenly called out to the evil emperor. Master, there's one more thing that I need your help with. The evil emperor's footsteps faltered, and he abruptly stopped. Time passed slowly, and the city guards and imperial army were successfully persuaded to leave by Li Sai. But even so, the Wang family's actions still attracted a lot of attention in the capital. After all, many people had heard the angry roar last night. But this matter was quickly suppressed by Wang Chong and the Wang family. The collapsed walls were quickly repaired to prevent others from peeking inside. The news that the Wang family released to the public was that Wang Chong had been conferred a marquis, and Wang Chong's mother, Madame Wang, was preparing to rebuild the entire Wang family residence to celebrate. Although many people still found it strange, and it wasn't completely convincing, at least it was a plausible explanation. Thus, not many people paid attention to it anymore. Moreover, the next day, the Wang family indeed called over many carpenters and sent over a lot of high-quality wood, so no one doubted it anymore. At night, a single lantern shone in Wang Chang's study. Wang Chang's study had been one of the few buildings that had not been affected by last night's battle. "You were the one who called my master over?" Wang Chong said. Standing across from him was a faceless man wearing a black metal mask, only his two eyes exposed. This man was silently standing there, motionless. Although his master, the evil emperor, had not said anything during the day, his actions had already told Wang Chong the answer. His master's myriad spirit sea art truly had sensed the abnormalities in the capital, and he had also sensed the disappearance of his and his little sister's auras, but this was not the primary reason he had been able to rush over. The primary reason was that someone had gone to the spirit vein to find him. Zhang Wentua, the faceless man standing before him. After returning from the southwest, the faceless man had not entered the Wang clan residence, and Wang Chong had not restrained his movements. Of all the people present, he was the only one that the black-robed men had not paid attention to, and he was also the only one that had not been imprisoned in the black shroud. "Yes." The faceless man nodded, his voice crisp and decisive. "After returning from the southwest, I knew that they would make a new move. Everything has confirmed my conjecture. Young master, you've already become their must-kill target." "I know." Wang Chong indifferently nodded. To be able to mobilize such a monster to deal with him, those people were clearly determined. If there's nothing unexpected, that giant bell on the street was probably their handiwork. As for the assassination attempt, it wasn't. You were in the vicinity at the time. Did you see anything? I only saw a black silhouette in the sky. It was too fast for me to see it clearly. The faceless man shook his head. These people are too secretive. They wouldn't give you any chance to find any clues. In addition, although I noticed them last night, they had too many people and were too strong. Even if I appeared, I wouldn't have been able to change anything. If I was too impulsive, it would just be one more person dying. You were right to do so." Wang Chong nodded. Although the black-robed men had only targeted him, in those circumstances, the faceless man's decision was undoubtedly correct and rational. "So, you've discovered their tracks?" The faceless man expressionlessly nodded. This simple action instantly caused the mood in the study to change. In the lamplight, Wang Chang's lips curled into a smile. Chapter 675. In the southern part of the city, by the Yuan River, a massive estate stood row upon row. This estate was even larger than the estates of many nobles and ministers. This was the estate of philanthropist Yang of the southern part of the city. The common people of the southern part of the city all knew that philanthropist Yang was a famous wealthy family in the southern part of the city. He was involved in many businesses, iron mines, slaughterhouses, jewelry, tea leaves. He had accumulated a great deal of wealth, but he was also an extremely benevolent and charitable person. He would often open a porridge stall and give alms to the beggars and poor families of the city. He would also often generously waive the rent of those tenant farmers who were in dire straits. Thus, philanthropist Yang had an extremely high reputation in the southern part of the city. But at this moment, no one knew that philanthropist Yang's estate was covered in corpses. Maids, and servants were sprawled all over the place. And on top of these corpses, a group of black-robed men had gathered. Damn it. It's already been a day. Why hasn't Lu Wu returned yet? Could Lu Wu really have been killed? Impossible. Lu Wu is invulnerable and has a formidable regenerative ability. Just who could have killed him? Has there been any news from the people we sent to investigate? No. The Wang clan's estate is heavily guarded. It's impossible for us to get close. A group of black-robed men paced back and forth in the hall, all of them seemingly restless. Lu Wu had disappeared. Not even if they were beaten to death would they dare to believe that such a thing could happen. Leader, if the higher-ups find out that we lost Lu Wu, all of us will be killed. A short black-robed man, only around 1.5 meters tall, fearfully said. What are you afraid of? Don't we still not know? The black-robed leader wearing the demon mask said impatiently. No one could have killed Lu Wu, absolutely no one. Hurry and send someone to take a look. I want to know what happened after we left. If you want to know what happened, I'll tell you. The candlelight in the hall flickered. Suddenly, a young and handsome voice came from outside. This voice instantly caused the hall to fall into an uproar. Who goes there? With a loud shout, everyone looked towards the door. Several black-robed men didn't even think and immediately flew towards the door. However, before they could fly over, with a crash, the door collapsed, and a black-robed man's corpse was thrown in from the outside like a stone. With a bang, it smashed on the ground in the middle of the hall. It's been a long time. Outside the door, Wang Chong was wearing a purple cloak. His face was full of smiles as he stepped over the threshold and walked in. It's you. Seeing Wang Chong, the expressions of all the black-robed men in the hall changed, but as soon as they spoke, they immediately felt that something was wrong. They and Wang Chong should have never met before. Wouldn't that be a confession? But at this time, everything was no longer important. Wang Chong appearing here at this time was absolutely not supposed to happen. It's been so long. Thanks to you, it's about time we meet again. Wang Chong sneered. After being attacked by these black-robed men 3 times in a row, this was the first time that Wang Chong saw their real bodies. Li Sai, do it. With Wang Chong's voice, the walls of the entire hall collapsed in an instant. In the billowing dust, countless figures rushed in. Not good. Let's go. The hall collapsed, and the black-robed leader's expression changed. In the billowing dust, he hurriedly glanced outside and saw that the entire courtyard was densely packed with figures. Wang Chong had brought at least thousands of people, and all of them were top-notch experts. This was the power of the top aristocratic families. Since Wang Chong knew their lair, of course, he wouldn't fight them alone. Instead, he brought all the experts he could find. With the current status of the Wang family, thousands of experts would respond to Wang Chong's call, and those that Wang Chong brought were only a small part of them. Against these black-robed men, Wang Chong was like a lion hunting a rabbit, going all out. Since they dared to attack him, they shouldn't think of leaving alive. Peng, with a stomp, the black-robed leader knew that something was wrong. Without thinking, he immediately leaped outside, quickly disappearing in the billowing dust. You think you can run? Wang Chong looked in the direction that the black-robed leader had fled, not even giving chase. In order to deal with these black-robed men, he had called over countless experts. If this still allowed him to escape, then it would really be strange. Everyone, don't be afraid. Let's work together and get rid of that brat. As long as we capture that brat and use him to threaten the others, we can still escape. If we kill this son of destruction, the higher-ups will definitely reward us. In the hall, a group of black-robed men saw that they were surrounded on all sides, and anger rose in their hearts. With a shout, the black-robed men pounced on Wang Chong like hungry tigers pouncing on their prey. The air trembled, emitting a sound like steel. In the midst of the sound, a strange, pitch-black halo of thorns suddenly appeared under the feet of these black-robed men. The aura of these black-robed men surged, and each of them fiercely attacked Wang Chong. "You overestimate yourself." Wang Chong sneered, and instantly broke through the air. Peng, peng, peng. Each of the black-robed men was struck by a palm strike from Wang Chong. In the next moment, time seemed to stop. The black-robed men seemed to have their acupoints sealed, and they were frozen in various positions, motionless. In the blink of an eye, a mist of blood suddenly surged out from the bodies of these black-robed men, like 100 rivers flowing into the sea, majestically pouring into Wang Chong's body. With a series of thuds, the black-robed men fell to the ground. Their originally large bodies seemed to have shrunk, turning into dried corpses that fell to the ground. What kind of evil technique is this? Run! The black-robed men had originally wanted to rush forward and cooperate with the others to deal with Wang Chong, but when they saw that their companions had been sucked dry by Wang Chong, their faces filled with terror. All their courage and ferocity instantly disappeared, and they turned to flee. Boom! A cold light flashed in Wang Chong's eyes. The fingers of his right hand spread open and he clawed at the fleeing men. In an instant, a fierce wind blew and a powerful attractive force exploded from Wang Chong's body. Before they could run more than a few zhang, they were immediately grabbed by Wang Chong and held in place. Under the suction of the great yin-yang heaven creation art, the blood energy in their bodies broke out of their bodies, transforming into a mist of blood that madly surged into Wang Chong's body. This blood mist flowed through Wang Chong's pores and into his body, and was instantly digested and absorbed. After absorbing this blood energy, Wang Chong's aura clearly grew much stronger. This was the great yin-yang heaven creation art. At this level, he no longer needed the little yin-yang sword. In a situation where there was a great disparity in strength between him and his opponents, Wang Chong did not even need to physically touch them to use the great yin-yang heaven creation art. Thump! Thump! There was a series of thuds as the blood energy of the black-robed men was sucked dry, and they dropped to the ground as desiccated corpses. This was the power of the world's #1 evil art. What power! As Wang Chong looked at the desiccated corpses around him, an abnormally powerful feeling welled up in his heart. Ever since he had used Lu Wu to cultivate the great yin-yang heaven creation art, this was the first time Wang Chong had used this supreme art of the evil path in a real battle. These black-robed men were extremely formidable experts, but they were powerless before the world's #1 evil art. Wang Chong had easily sucked away the energy they had accumulated over decades. This kind of power was obtained too easily, and the process of sucking was accompanied by a strong sense of spiritual pleasure, making people unable to help but sink deep into it, unable to extricate themselves, only wanting to constantly absorb more inner force. If one isn't abnormally powerful, it's very easy to sink into it and become a bloodthirsty and murderous individual. As these thoughts flitted through Wang Chong's mind, a bright light flashed through his eyes. All the surging blood energy and that uncontrollable desire to suck were swiftly suppressed. The pleasure of killing brought about by the great yin-yang heaven creation art was far more powerful than the little yin-yang art, and it was also far more difficult to control. But to Wang Chong, no matter how difficult it was to control, it was no more difficult than fighting against fate. Ah! Screams resounded through the air, and the battle ended much faster than Wang Chong had imagined. Now that they knew that these people were the true assassins of the Wang clan, all the experts Wang Chong had recruited were enraged and began to attack the black-robed men with all their strength. Each black-robed man was surrounded by several dozen experts. One could easily imagine their fates. Child of destruction, you won't be happy for long. Master will avenge us. Suddenly, the remaining black-robed men roared, their eyes exploding as they bit down on the poison capsules between their teeth. Soon, black blood began to flow from their mouths. Thud, 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 the black-robed men dropped to the ground, motionless. Damn it! So fast! Wang Chong grimaced. These people were exactly as Solitary Wolf had said. They had hidden poison capsules between their teeth. But Wang Chong had not expected them to be so decisive. They didn't even try to escape, choosing to commit suicide by biting down on the poison. But a few moments later, Wang Chong had returned to normal. No matter how cautious these people were, no matter how resolute they were, it was impossible for them not to leave behind any clues. "Chonger, I've brought the person to you." Suddenly, a vigorous voice came out of the churning dust, and the demonic emperor old man's sleeves flapped in the wind as he flew through the air. Bang! Before the evil emperor could land, he shook his wrist and sent a figure to the ground. It was none other than the leader of the black-robed men who had fled earlier. The evil emperor had personally overseen this operation precisely to prevent anyone from escaping. Even someone as vicious and violent as Lu Wu was as docile as a sheep in front of the evil emperor, much less this black-robed leader. "Young master, 2 of the black-robed men have been captured while the rest have been executed. The operation is over." Chapter 676. You may leave. Wang Chong flung his sleeves and nodded. The outcome of this battle was not out of his expectations. The biggest mistake the black-robed men made was to overlook faceless Zhang Wentua's existence. Now, it was time for them to pay the price. "The rest of you, stand guard outside. Li Sai, you stand guard outside. No one is to approach without my orders." Wang Chong issued a series of orders. Turning around, Wang Chong looked at his master, the evil emperor. "Master, I'll have to trouble you. I also want to know what kind of person is capable of creating such a monster." The evil emperor slowly walked forward without any hesitation. These people dared to lay their hands on Wang Chong and Wang Xiaoyao, which was a taboo in his heart. Even if Wang Chong hadn't said anything, he would have done it himself. He would have gotten to the bottom of the matter and uprooted them. Every dragon had a reverse scale, and those who touched it would be infuriated. The evil emperor's reverse scale was his last 2 disciples, Wang Chong and Wang Xiaoyao. Whoever dared to touch them would have to die. Wang! The evil emperor opened his palm and the black-robed leader immediately rose from the ground. Under the pull of an invisible force, he fell into the evil emperor's palm. The evil emperor closed his eyes and a thick black aura seeped into the head of the black-robed leader. There were many heretical techniques in the heretical path that searched through the memories of others. As the former overlord of the heretical path and the number 1 expert, the evil emperor knew at least 7 to 8 of these techniques. If they wanted to know the truth, there was no need for corrupt path experts like them to use torture to interrogate them. They would be able to directly learn the truth. Wang! Time passed slowly. The evil emperor stood there, unmoving, while the leader of the black-robed men hovered in the air, his body twitching uncontrollably. He let out a series of meaningless sounds, as if he was in great pain. The techniques of the evil path, especially those that directly searched the memories of the target, were extremely tyrannical and cruel. Furthermore, they had great repercussions. Most of the targets of this sorcery would suffer severe brain damage and eventually become an idiot. Wang Chong stood next to the demonic emperor old man, his eyes brimming with anticipation as he looked at his master. Even in Wang Chong's era, the demonic emperor old man was an existence that the vast majority of people could only look up to, an unreachable existence. If even he couldn't find any information about these people, then it was even more impossible for others to do so. Everything has a reason. Once we capture the leader of these people, we should be able to find out their true intentions soon. Wang Chong thought to himself. There was almost no secret in the entire Central Plains that Wang Chong didn't know. But these black-robed men didn't seem to exist in any corner of history. Wang Chong had no memory of them, and everything was shrouded in a thick fog. Time slowly passed, and after some time, the demonic emperor old man finally opened his eyes. "Master, how is it? Did you find out where they came from?" Wang Chong took 2 steps forward and asked in concern. "What a formidable psychic seal." To Wang Chong's surprise, the evil emperor didn't immediately answer him. Instead, he gave a long sigh. I've roamed the martial world for several decades, but this is the first time I've encountered such a powerful and top-notch psychic seal. Chong'er, you've truly met your match this time. With these final words, the evil emperor turned to Wang Chong, deep worry in his eyes. Master, did you find anything? Wang Chong's heart thumped as he suddenly had a bad premonition. Judging from his master's reaction, it didn't seem like he had succeeded. Wang Chong found it hard to imagine what it was that even his master, the #1 expert of the evil path, couldn't deal with it. How could this be? No matter how formidable their psychic seal is, it's impossible for it to stop me. The evil emperor harumphed and raised his eyebrows. His expression was one of disdain and confidence. The other party has an extremely formidable psychic seal expert, and all of their most crucial memories have been sealed. If they were carelessly touched, their bodies would immediately explode and they wouldn't be able to leak any information. With these final words, the evil emperor pointed a finger at the black-robed leader in his palm. However, nothing is absolute. No matter how strict their defenses are, I still managed to find some information about them. These people call themselves the children of God, and they seem to believe that they are following a true God. Laughable. The evil emperor snorted disdainfully at these words. As the #1 expert of the evil path, the evil emperor had never believed in gods, much less gods. It was just a bunch of fools who had been fooled. Moreover, if gods really did exist, didn't that mean that he himself was a god? It's just a bunch of fools pretending to be gods. The evil emperor's eyes were filled with disdain. In the world of martial artists, the strong preyed on the weak was an unshakable principle. The so-called gods, even if there really were, would only be some more powerful martial artists. The human heart was truly foolish. Gods. Wang Chong's eyebrows rose in thought. This news had completely exceeded his expectations. That's right. Although they're just a bunch of shady, sneaky, and shady factions that play tricks on the minds of others, they do have some outstanding aspects. From the memories of the monster we killed, your master learned that it was a creature they called Lu Wu, a creature created by gods. Although I don't believe that anyone in this world can be called a god, that monster was truly a good one. At the end, the demonic emperor old man gave a rare nod. A monster that not even Wuzi's steel weapons could deal with was definitely not a creature of nature. If not for the fact that the evil emperor was proficient in the myriad spirit sea art, which allowed him to break through all defenses, he really would have been helpless against it. In addition, although their psychic seal art is extremely formidable, I was still able to find some clues. If I'm not mistaken, these people should have come from the northwest. This is why there are almost no records of their existence in the Central Plains. The northwest? Wang Chong's brow creased at these words. That was the location of his next target. If that was where the nest of those people was, Master, I'll have to trouble you this time. Wang Chong took in a deep breath and quickly regained his composure. At the same time, he waved his hand behind him. Men, bring all these people back. 2 captives and the leader of the black-robed men. He could dig out more information from these people. At the very least, Wang Chong knew the simplest trick of loosening the reins only to grasp them better. Yes, young master. A few experts immediately responded. But just as they bent down and were about to carry the leader of the black-robed men away, something unexpected happened. Bang! Right before everyone's eyes, the head of the black-robed man wearing the demon mask suddenly exploded without warning. Countless pieces of flesh and blood splattered all over the surrounding area. Following that, 2 more explosions were heard from other places. Ah! Cries of alarm and commotion could be heard from the back. Young master, bad news. Young master, the 2 guards that we captured suddenly had their heads explode. A few guards suddenly rushed over from the back. In an instant, the atmosphere around them changed abruptly. Wang Chong looked at the corpses and broken pieces on the ground and his face darkened. He had wanted to make use of these people to do something, but now, it was all for naught. I'm still too slow. I didn't expect them to react so quickly. The evil emperor's face darkened. His reaction was faster than Wang Chong's. When the black-robed men's leader's body started acting strangely, he had already noticed it. But he was still too slow. Although he was once known as the world's #1 villainous expert, he was not very proficient in the field of spiritual seals. And the person who was able to place seals in the minds of these black-robed men was obviously an expert in this field. These people are too cautious. Wang Chong's eyebrows twitched. The black-robed men's leader's head would not explode for no reason. The biggest possibility was that the forces behind the black-robed men had already noticed the evil emperor and sensed the changes in the seals. That was why they detonated the seals in the black-robed men's minds and killed them instantly. In an instant, Wang Chong's eyebrows darkened. His foe was far more cautious than he had imagined. Although he had found some clues, even more mysteries had arisen. Moreover, his foe's methods were almost divine. Whether it was Lu Wu or those extremely subtle spiritual seals, they had all surpassed the limits of ordinary martial arts. But Wang Chong quickly regained his composure. No matter how fast your reactions are, no matter how cautious you are, there will come a day when I will find all of you. If I can catch you once, I can catch you a second time. Wang Chong coldly said. Although his foe had destroyed his crucial trump card, Wang Chong had still obtained what he wanted. Li Sai, pass on my order. Prepare to retreat. Yes, young master. The grandiose operation had come to an end. Chonger, have you decided where your fief will be? In the Wang clan residence, Wang Zhen, dressed in a crimson official's robe and a golden-green sash, was seated on a rosewood armchair. He was lightly sipping tea, his expression relaxed and contented. Wang Zhen's face was ruddy, a sign that he was in a good mood. When a man attained the Tao, his chickens and dogs would ascend with him. Wang Chong had rendered great service in the southwest, and the entire Wang clan was riding on the crest of success. Even his big uncle, Wang Zhen, had been rewarded by the imperial court. This could be seen from his official's robe and belt. But Wang Zhen was currently most concerned about the issue of Wang Chong's fief. This was also his primary reason for coming here. The descendants of the Wang clan were connected by blood. They would prosper together, and they would suffer together. The events of the Southwest were enough to illustrate this problem. A fief seemed simple, but it was related to the long-term well-being of the descendants of a noble clan. Any clan that could obtain a fief was no small matter. The Wang clan was clearly no different. Chonger, I've already thought about it for you. In the last few days, I've thoroughly flipped through the fiefs of the Tang dynasty and looked them over for you. In the end, I've finally found the best place for you. Wang Zhen smiled as he put down his teacup. With a light flick of his finger, he opened a scroll on the table. Whoosh! With a soft clatter, a map of the Tang dynasty appeared in front of Wang Chong. In the world, the richest place is Longxi. I've already chosen it for you. It's in Zhao County. That place isn't large, but it's extremely wealthy. Just the taxes alone can reach more than 200,000 years a year. Don't you need money right now? This is the best choice. These last words were powerful and resonant. These simple words were the result of Wang Zhen's diligent research over this period of time. This was the best result for both Wang Chong and the entire Wang clan. As long as they had this piece of land, regardless of whether or not the Wang clan made a great contribution in the future, regardless of whether or not the Wang clan produced any talented generals or ministers, the entire Wang clan would definitely prosper. Do not entrust the rise and fall of the clan to a single person, and do not entrust the success or failure of the clan to a single moment. This was the wise way for every great clan to survive and prosper for generations to come. The Wang clan had finally touched the edge of this invisible threshold. Chapter 677. Uncle, Xiao is good, but I've already thought it through. Wang Chong suddenly spoke up, interrupting Wang Zhen's words. Sitting on the chair, Wang Zhen's face froze in shock. As for the issue of fiefdom, I've thought about it for a long time. Although Xiao's land isn't bad, to me, it's not a good place. There is another place that is more suitable for me. Wang Chong lightly blew at the foam on the surface of the tea and took a sip of the tea. His expression was calm as he spoke. You already have an idea? Wang Zhen's eyes were wide open, and his mind was unable to process the situation. He had to admit that Wang Chong's words completely exceeded his expectations. Where do you want your fief? Which place is better than Xiao? Wushang. Stretching out a finger, Wang Chong tapped on an inconspicuous location to the west of Longxi on Wang Zhen's map. Seeing the location pointed out by Wang Chong, the smile on Wang Zhen's face immediately vanished, and he found it hard to maintain his composure. Chonga, are you joking? His first reaction was to think that Wang Chong was joking, that he had misheard, or that Wang Chong had pointed at the wrong place on the map. However, seeing the serious expression on Wang Chong's face, it was clear that he was not joking at all. His expression immediately turned grim. Chonger, the matter of the fief is no small matter. Do you know how many aristocratic families and nobles are envious of us? The Holy Emperor had opened his golden mouth. This was a major event that had not happened in decades. In the entire Tang dynasty, except for the capital, as long as you wanted, you could choose anywhere you wanted. This is a great favor from the heavens. Wang Zhen had always placed great importance on this nephew of his, and he had great trust in him. To some extent, he even valued him more than his own son. If others said that Wang Chong was the Wang clan's Qilin son, the #1 expert of the younger generation, and not his own son, Wang Li, not only would Wang Zhen not be unhappy, he would even feel honored and proud of it. But this time was completely different. Wushang, do you know what that place is? As the saying goes, the world is rich and populous, but nowhere is Longyu. There was no better fief than Longxi. Moreover, even though you had some conflict with Geshu Han during the regional commander's incident, the fief was His Majesty's decree, and not even Geshu Han dared to interfere in the slightest. If this matter is done well, it will be of great benefit to both you and our Wang clan. But you want to establish a fief on this barren and barren land near Qixi. Just what are you thinking? Wang Zhen's words were heavy. He straightened his back and looked at his nephew sternly. Wushang was a place that Wang Zhen had no impression of. However, Wang Zhen knew the location Wang Chong had chosen on the map. If Wang Chong had chosen a slightly better location, he would not have ended up in such a state. But Wang Chong had chosen a barren land on the road to the west. This was a complete waste of the imperial court's intention in bestowing a fief to Wang Chong. Ha, big uncle, I know that you find this hard to accept. But I have my reasons for doing this. Wang Chong smiled at these words. He picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip, his expression calm and composed, not the slightest bit nervous. Then why? Perhaps influenced by Wang Zhen's attitude, Wang Zhen took in a deep breath and relaxed a little. Ha, big uncle, Wushang truly is a barren land. But big uncle, take a closer look. What is this place? As Wang Chong spoke, his finger lightly traced a line on the map. At first glance, Wang Zhen did not notice anything, but on second glance, his eyes widened as he realized something. You mean the Silk Road? That's right. Yes, the Silk Road. Wang Chong chuckled. Not too far from the Wushang he had chosen was a winding road. It was the famous Silk Road to the west that all the foreign kingdoms, including the Tang dynasty, were familiar with. Are you intending to make a fuss on this road? Wang Zhen glanced at Wang Chong with a contemplative look on his face, and his expression gradually became less stern. The Silk Road to the west was also a famous golden road. Innumerable merchants from both the east and the west traversed this road. Silk, spices, jewels, jade, porcelain, camels, tea leaves. Almost all the Hu merchants and merchants from the western regions who came to the Tang dynasty to do business would pass through this road. The massive disparity in prices between the east and the west resulted in massive profits. As a result, this road gave birth to many wealthy merchants. Those Hu merchants who came to the Tang dynasty to do business were all filthy rich. Pearls, agate, jade, all of these were like clay tiles to them. The goods they bought and sold were all of great value, and the wealth they earned was something that many people would never be able to imagine in their entire lives. Even the great clans would have to lament their inadequacies. And in terms of importance, the Silk Road to the west was indisputably the #1 road in the world, far more important than the famous Tea Horse Road in the southwest. From a certain perspective, the Silk Road, which maintained trade relations with the various kingdoms, played a significant role in the Tang dynasty's current prosperity. Big Uncle, the land of Zhao isn't bad, but it's still stagnant water. At the very most, it's only 200,000, but the Silk Road to the west is different. Whether it's the Great Han Dynasty, the previous dynasty, or the current dynasty, the first thing they did after the world was stabilized was to open up the Silk Road. From this, one can easily imagine how much importance the empire places on this road. Wang Chong confidently said. Big Uncle, you know just how wealthy the Hu merchants of the capital are. The Hu merchants of the western regions, the spice merchants of the Abbasid Caliphate, and the jewelry merchants of Karak Spazinu travel tens of thousands of li to the Tang dynasty every year, and they all carry enormous amounts of wealth with them. Has eldest uncle ever thought about it? With so many merchants coming and going, how much wealth must be flowing through this trade route every day? This, Wang Zhen fell silent. Wang Zhen understood even better than Wang Chong just how much importance the Tang dynasty placed on this road to the west. It was for no other reason than that this was the sage emperor's will. In the Tang dynasty of the Central Plains, no one inside or outside the court dared to question the decisions of the Holy Emperor. This was also the reason why this road had always been able to move without any obstruction. Moreover, there was one thing that Wang Chong had said correctly. This road to the west truly was extremely wealthy. Even the Bureau of Revenue, which was responsible for the finances of the court, found it difficult to calculate the amount of wealth that flowed through it every day, much less other people. So Chonger, you mean that you want to seize profits from this road? Wang Chong gave a firm nod, his eyes deep and his expression one of deep contemplation. But this is useless. The Hu merchants are unique in their trade, and no one else can get involved in it. In the past, when the Silk Road was opened, there were many great clans and nobles who coveted this road, and even the princes of the imperial household wanted to get involved. But later on, we quickly realized that we couldn't understand the languages of the western regions, Abbasid Caliphate, and Karak Spazinu, and the Tang people disdained learning the languages of the barbarians. Moreover, Abbasid Caliphate and Karak Spazinu were separated by tens of thousands of li, and the journey was arduous. Moreover, we weren't familiar with the environment there, so no one could get involved. The great clans and nobles of the capital only gave up after several failed attempts. Chonger, it's not that I want to deny you. Your idea is quite good. But it's not very feasible in practice. He shook his head, a hint of concern in his eyes as he looked at Wang Chong. Wang Chong's ambition to use the Silk Road to the west and covet it was worthy of recognition. However, it was obvious that he had underestimated all of this. If one could casually take a slice of the pie, the Great Tang would have long ago been established, and all the nobles in the capital would have already taken their share of the profits. How could the Wang clan have gotten their turn? How could it have waited until now? In the War of the Southwest, Wang Chong had truly displayed an extraordinary talent for the art of war. But the art of war and the art of trade were different. Not even Wang Chong could be skilled in both. Ha, big uncle, you've misunderstood. Wang Chong laughed at these words. I'm not planning on getting involved in the silk, spices, and jewels business and selling them in Abbasid Caliphate and Karak-Spazinu. The Silk Road to the west is 10,000 some li, and I can only make 1 or 2 trips a year. It takes far too long to turn the money around. Turn the money around? A hint of surprise flitted through Wang Zhen's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. He was already used to his nephew's astonishing words. Everyone in the capital knew of the phrase, "Who laughs in the end laughs best." If you don't want to get involved in these businesses, what do you want to do? Wang Zhen was truly rather confused this time. The most profitable businesses on the Silk Road to the west were silk, jewels, and spices. If he didn't get involved in these businesses, how could he make money? Wang Zhen found it impossible to see through his nephew's thoughts. Of course it's to build a city there and earn the profits of those merchants. As Wang Chong chuckled, the teacup in his hand splashed tea onto the map of the Tang dynasty, the place representing the Silk Road. This move was completely unexpected. Wang Zhen stared in a daze at the cup that had appeared on the map of the Tang dynasty, speechless. Big uncle. Wang Chong pushed back his chair and stood up. The Silk Road to the west is rich in profits, but it is a long journey, and as the saying goes, a long night is fraught with dreams. For this reason, the road to the west is rife with bandits, and coupled with the complex terrain, the imperial court has repeatedly tried to ban it, but to no avail. And for the sake of the Hyderabad I ordered Li Sai to exterminate the largest bandit group on the Silk Road, the Black Dragon Bandit. But the Black Dragon Bandit is only one of them. Before that, there was the Pei Long Bandit, the Black Flame Bandit, and in the future, there will be other gangs. As long as there is profit, this situation will continue despite repeated bans. Think about it. If there was a city on the Silk Road to the west where all the merchants could obtain protection and supplies, would they be willing to come? Would they be willing to come? And each of the merchants traveling to the west is a massive caravan, with several hundred or even more than 1,000 people. For so many people to stay here for a single day, it would be no small expense. If they could buy and sell things here for free, would there be people willing to come here to do business? In this aspect, the merchants traveling to the west are extremely generous. And once more people gather here, they will be able to collect taxes. What do you think will happen to such a city, Big Uncle? After all, this is a unique business. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.